Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, American Comics. Expose the foundation at the beginning, shocking the world. Chapter 61. Anomaly. Containment 2317 is a wooden door in its frame, originally installed in the 19th century, data expunged. Once the door is opened, anyone who passes through the door will be transported to another parallel reality. See the data in the light curtain. Discussions started immediately on the internet. Sure enough, it's a crossing door. An abnormal containment similar to the Red Sea object. It seems that this abnormal containment object seems to be much more convenient than the Red Sea object to travel through. Behind this gate to another world, will there be something similar to the unclean? Wait, I remember that it was recorded in the agent record in the Red Sea object that the one who created the Red Sea object was a god. Was this gate to another world also created by that god? New York. See these materials. Caecilius and the group of dark believers suddenly saw light up. Another abnormal containment connected to other dimensions. Ancient One will definitely focus on this. Caecilius murmured. This will speed up the coming of the great Dormamu. But instead, he shook his head again. When the previous abnormal containment object appeared in the light curtain video, they couldn't figure out where it was at the first time. Then he was afraid of Ancient One, so he didn't dare to act. This time the anomalous containment is no exception. Unless they know the location when the light curtain is broadcasting live, otherwise the words will not move the people at all. Instead, why not follow the original plan and use dark magic to let Dormamu descend? And at this time, the information in the light curtain has been updated again. The area directly accessible through the abnormal containment 2317 is a salt pan with a radius of several kilometers. 7 pillars stand 10 meters in front of abnormal containment 2317, referred to as abnormal containment 2317A to abnormal containment 2317G, forming a circle with a diameter of 10 meters. Each column is about 1 meter in diameter and 7 meters high, made of marble, carved with many incomprehensible reliefs. The artistic style of these reliefs is inconsistent with any known modern, historical, or prehistoric civilization. Kamar Taj. The moment I saw these materials, Ancient One frowned tightly again. Made of stone, with many pillars of incomprehensible relief. Ancient One muttered to himself. The description of this section of data. Give her the feeling, much like a summoning ceremony for a powerful existence. It shouldn't be a feeling. There are many magic circles for summoning magic, all of which are almost similar to the structures mentioned in this document. She looked up and looked at the remaining information on the light curtain. Anomalous containment 2317AG extends 200 meters underground and enters abnormal containment 2317H. Anomaly containment 2317H is a spherical space with a diameter of 100 kilometers, located in the ground directly below abnormal containment 2317AG, and is made of the same material as abnormal containment 2317AG. Anomalous containment 2317H contains anomalous containment 2317K called Entity Asgard. Under this magic circle, there is actually a different dimension. Odin looked at the file. His expression became slightly serious. Under this structure that looks like a magic circle, it is actually a spherical space with a diameter of 100 kilometers, and it is all made of marble. Then, his gaze focused on the word, entity. It seems that the most important thing on the other side of this gate to another world is this entity. Odin whispered. A moment later, he couldn't help frowning. Why does this look like a summon, but a seal? At this moment, the data in the light curtain is refreshed again. From seismic analysis, ground-penetrating radar, and direct observation, entity appears to be in extremely large amounts of obese humanoid. Its erect height is estimated to exceed 200 kilometers. Inside shield. Hiss. Is this fake? The agents in charge of recording and analyzing couldn't help but gasp. Nick Fury's complexion also suddenly sank. A creature with an upright height of more than 200 kilometers. Leaving aside this entity, is there any other ability? This alone is enough to show its strength. The bigger the creature, the stronger its body strength will be. The entity stands over 200 kilometers tall. That is to say, its skeletal body strength is absolutely frighteningly high. Supporting such a huge body, the strength of the physical body may be comparable to vibranium. And the contents of this inventory are cognitive benders and reality benders. Thinking of this, Nick Fury couldn't help but tremble all over. Sure enough, none of the anomalous containment items that have been counted this time are safe. He murmured in a low voice. Then look at the other information on the light curtain again. Twig-like horns protruding from the entity's head, and the face lacks a lower jaw. Its whole body is covered by countless overlapping flaky scales. 7 heavy hooks are embedded in the back of the entity, and each hook is connected to the lower ends of the 7 pillars at the top of the space with an iron cable. Asgard. It really is a seal. Seeing this last information, Odin suddenly took a deep breath. I guessed right. Those stone pillars in this gate of another world are to seal this so-called entity. He couldn't help but look back at other directions in the 9 realms. Among the 9 worlds, the Titan race is not rare. For example, Jotunheim's Frost Titan, or the Flame Titan Serta of Muspelheim. But compared with this entity, as high as 200 kilometers. They're all like ants, and don't know yet whether this entity has other abilities. In this gate of another world, the sealed entity. I'm afraid it's powerful and terrifying. Thinking of this, Odin's expression can't help but become extremely dignified. He took a deep breath before continuing to look at the light curtain. So far, 6 iron cables have been broken or damaged, and only 1 remains intact. See these 2 lines of information. Pupil of Odin. It shrank suddenly in an instant. Kamar Taj. 7 chains, only 1 chain is left. The Ancient One magician's complexion suddenly turned pale. Doesn't that mean, in this gate of another world, the sealed entity? Are you going to break through the seal soon? A body size of more than 200 kilometers. And there may be unknown cognitohazards. Or the more outlandish creatures of the reality-bending ability. Thinking of this, Ancient One magician couldn't help but feel his scalp tingle. Just relying on these things recorded in the data. This threat, I'm afraid it's not much worse than Dormamu. And most importantly, it is very difficult for Dormamu to enter the Earth dimension. The dark servants on the Earth's dimension are needed to guide the coordinates and apply specific dark magic. Only then can Dormamu come down smoothly. But this entity is different. If you break through the shackles of the last chain, just push open the door to another world, it will be able to descend directly to the Earth. Call took a deep breath. Only then did Ancient One calm himself down, and said in a deep voice, no matter what the situation is, if there is an accident this time, I must. But, halfway through, she hesitated again. Look behind. Strange, who is still in the mirror space. After all, he still didn't finish the sentence. Strange isn't on the right track yet, she can't have accidents. And at this moment, light curtain, new information is refreshed again. Anomalous Containment 2317K is an ancient entity known as the Data Expunged, the Devourer of Worlds. It is suspected to be the projection of the supreme divinity Data Expunged. See these 2 lines of information. Ancient One magician's breathing stopped suddenly. Asgard, the worlds, the Devourer. Odin frowned suddenly. The name, he never heard of it. But, he did know a similar name. Planet Devourer. That existence, one of the 5 gods of the universe. But, this existence, Odin has only heard of it. Until now, and have not been in touch. Not sure about its strength. I just know roughly that it should be very cool. It should be kind of invincible. Could it be that the Devourer of Worlds is a similar existence? Odin muttered to himself. But, when he saw the last line of information, he shivered suddenly again, shook his head and said, impossible, this is absolutely impossible. If so, doesn't it mean that the existence of the level of the 5 gods? They all seem to be just projections of the so-called supreme divinity. What kind of terrifying existence must that be? Shield. Nick Fury's face turned pale with fright. After reading all this information, all agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have come to a conclusion. Once the Devourer of Worlds breaks free from his shackles, he descends to Earth. That is an unstoppable disaster. New York, the Eater of Worlds. Caecilius' gaze stayed firmly on the light curtain. His eyes were extremely hot. You only need to pass through the gate of another world to reach the Earth. Of the 7 sealed chains, 6 have been destroyed. He is sure, just help this thing break free. Ancient One absolutely has no other energy, and no longer pays attention to himself. Then, you can bring the great Dormamu down by yourself. As for when this so-called Eater of Worlds. In his mind, it is absolutely impossible to compare with the great Dormamu. However, for all of this, we still need to find out where this gate to another world is. He stared fixedly at the screen. This is really all luck. If the live broadcast on the light curtain, it is a place he knows, and he can directly open the portal to go there. And at this moment, in the light curtain, those written materials slowly disappeared. Instead, there is a picture. Screen seems to be a huge amounts of estate. A group of young people recognized held a party in the manor. Caecilius was taken aback for a moment. Immediately, a look of extreme ecstasy suddenly appeared on his face. He is very familiar with this manor. The great Dormamu is indeed paying attention to me in the dark. This time, it is finally our turn to contain the abnormal objects. He roared excitedly, when even no longer hesitation. Directly urge the sling ring in your hand to open a portal. All the dark servants walked in directly. In the picture of the light curtain. Center of sight. Soon it was on those young people who were having a party. Transferred to a quaint wooden door placed in the corner. Obviously, this door, this time it's the abnormal containment item 2317, the gate to another world. Kamar Taj. Where is this place? Ancient One magician stared at the picture in the light curtain, a little anxious. She didn't know this place in the light curtain. And similar buildings, in every corner of the earth. If you want to find, it is tantamount to finding a needle in a haystack. However, the Foundation should know where it is. With them, there will be no problems. The Ancient One magician murmured. However, the next moment, her pupils suddenly shrank. In the picture of the light curtain, a golden portal suddenly opened. Immediately afterwards, Caecilius, and the figures of the dark servants, appeared in the manor. Caecilius, the expression of Ancient One magician changed suddenly. Heart, become extremely anxious. Originally, after seeing the information about the gate of another world and the Devourer of Worlds, she felt extremely uneasy in her heart. However now, Caecilius and the others actually appeared at the location of this abnormal containment. If Caecilius and the others break the chain, if the Devourer of Worlds is allowed to reach the Earth dimension through the gate of another world, it is simply an unimaginable world-class disaster. Now, in the picture of the light curtain, the group in the manor, young people driving a party. Caecilius and his party were quickly noticed. Several muscular security guards suddenly frowned. Take a step forward, pointing to Caecilius their noses. He said viciously, "Who are you? Don't you know that this is a private manor? Hurry up and get out." But he hadn't finished speaking. A dark minion behind Caecilius casts a spell. Next moment, those security guards immediately decapitated. The head rolled to the ground. Seeing this scene, in the originally noisy manor, it was quiet in an instant. All the rest, they all looked at Caecilius and his party in horror, trembling. Can't say a word. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury yelled. Who can tell me, where did these fools come from? What are they trying to do? While talking, his body couldn't help shaking in fear. In the picture of the light curtain at this moment, it is the location of the gate to another world. So, these few people who suddenly appeared, undoubtedly, for the gate of another world, or the one behind the gate to another world, the sealed Devourer of Worlds is coming. To kill so decisively, these people are definitely not good people. Just thought of, that size reached a terrifying 200 kilometers. And there are also monsters suspected of having cognitohazards, or reality distortion abilities. If it appeared on Earth, Nick Fury couldn't help but feel his scalp tingle. As the location of the manor shore, Nick Fury yelled frantically to hide the extreme fear in his heart. But, from the information provided by the screen in the light curtain, there are too many such manors in the world. Even if it is S.H.I.E.L.D., there is no way to find out where it is for a while. Nick Fury's hand couldn't help shaking. In the picture of the light curtain, after dealing with several security guards who got in the way, Caecilius, and the servants of darkness, he just ignored the rest of the young people. Walked directly into the light curtain just now. What appears? The location of the quaint wooden door. Seeing the closed wooden door leaning against the corner of the wall, he suddenly smiled. I remember right. This gate to another world is here. And at this moment, the internet has long been boiling because of the arrival of Caecilius and the others. Oh my god, Who are these people? How can they kill people without blinking an eye? Wait, what they just used, is it magic? It's the same as the one who occupied the mask last time. It seems. It's really a bit like it. However, the magic that occupied the mask last time, and the magician used by the bald witch magician, are all golden, and the magic of these people is black. The last time they occupied the mask, I remember they had a conversation. What kind of dark magic? Could these people be dark magic? Shouldn't the Devourer of Worlds be the most worrying thing right now? That's why they're obviously here. On the screen of the light curtain. In confirmation. This door is the abnormal containment 2317 behind the gate of another world. A smile appeared on Caecilius' face immediately. He doesn't have any hesitation. He put his hand directly on the handle of the door to another world, and gave a soft sigh. This quaint door was instantly opened. Exposed inside. A landscape completely different from the current scene. It really is here. Caecilius couldn't help breathing fast. I walked in decisively. The remaining dark servants immediately followed. As for the rest of the young people, they immediately looked at each other in blank dismay, their eyes widened to the limit. Glancing at the open door, it was clearly a scene from another world. I looked at the bodies of the security guards on the ground again. I was so shocked that I couldn't say a word. But still one or two bold young men. Looking at the environment inside the gate of another world, I was a little eager to try. But before they had time to act, several dark servants passed through the gate of another world and returned. Soon, all the rest of the manor. All were forced into the gate of another world by the servants of darkness. Then, those servants of darkness, then enter the portal again. Close the gate of the other world tightly. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Seeing this scene, on Nick Fury's neck, the veins burst out suddenly. No doubt, these magicians want these young people to be scapegoats for Pathfinders. These demons magician, absolutely a murderous villain. But compared to the gate to another world, the deaths of those young people are not very important. The most important thing is that the Devourer of Worlds must not be released. Nick Fury trembled with fear. Hastily shouted, "Quick, everyone in the intelligence department, no, everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D., at all costs, immediately investigate and analyze where this place is." Light curtain. The moment the gate to the other world closes, the screen changed again. In the picture, exactly as described in Anomalous Containment 2713. It is a salt field with a radius of several kilometers. And not far before Caecilius, and his servants of darkness. It is the 7 huge amounts of pillars. Above the pillars, there are many relief carvings that do not belong to any kind of civilization on the earth. Those young people looked at the surrounding environment with a dumbfounded look on their faces. "Call," and Caecilius' breathing suddenly became rapid. He whispered, "That's right here. Wait for this thing to be released to attract their attention. We can leave the coordinates for the Great Dormamu and let the Great Dormamu descend." Hear this. The expressions of the group of dark servants suddenly became fanatical. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. On hearing, after these words of Caecilius, Nick Fury's pupils shrank suddenly. They really want to release the Devourer of Worlds. Nick Fury couldn't help but yelled in fear. Also, they wanted to release the Devourer of Worlds to attract their attention. And let Dormamu descend. What the hell is Dormamu again? Nick Fury couldn't help but shouted to the sky. Why these names? They have never heard of S.H.I.E.L.D. In the picture of the light curtain, Caecilius exchanged glances with several dark servants. They directly pushed those young people forward. Let them touch those stone pillars. Various experiments. After confirming that there is no danger, they just nodded. Caecilius yelled excitedly, "Let's go. Everyone, for the Great Dormamu. For the Great Dormamu." The dark servants also roared excitedly. Then, they directly activated the extremely aggressive dark magic and headed towards GU. However, after a burst of dust, the 7 stone pillars were unharmed. See, everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It's okay. Nick Fury and other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. They were so frightened that they slumped on their chairs, wiping their sweat non-stop. CBEI Kamar Taj. They really came for Dormamu. The Ancient One magician had a gloomy complexion and murmured in a low voice. "But, if you really want them to release the Devourer of Worlds, I'm afraid I really don't have the energy to deal with Dormamu's coming." But it's okay. These stone pillars were just as she thought, and they couldn't be destroyed so easily. Otherwise, how could it be possible to imprison and seal an existence of this level? But we still need to find that location as soon as possible. The Ancient One magician murmured in a low voice. Inside the gate of the alien world. How can this be? Caecilius, as well as all the dark believers, were stunned. They just released. They are the most aggressive dark magic. In the end, how many marble pillars could not be broken? These are definitely not ordinary stone pillars. Caecilius' expression darkened. He thought for a moment. I remembered the anomalous Containment 2317 material I read before. Since stone pillars don't work, then try the underground chains. Caecilius looked gloomy, and growled in a low voice, dig. Soon, servants of darkness, and the group of young people. He walked directly to the middle of the 7 huge stone pillars and dug down. With the help of dark magic, they dig very fast. Soon, it has already dug down to a position close to 200 meters. Sudden, the environment under their feet changed. No longer soil. It is a piece of scarlet land, which is obviously different from the previous texture. This should be the normal Containment 2317 said, the abnormal Containment 2317H space. Caecilius whispered excitedly. Now, start looking for the Devourer of Worlds and the chains that bind it. For the great Dormamu. Yes, all the dark servants, as well as those young people, roared excitedly. Inside the mountain villa, after seeing this scene, Stark was taken aback. If it's just these dark magicians, it's fine to be so excited. But the problem is, these young people, why did you become so excited all of a sudden? Could it be that they got Stockholm Syndrome so quickly? Stark couldn't help murmuring under his breath. In the picture of the light curtain, Caecilius, and the servants of darkness, and the young men. Soon, they searched in all directions in this scarlet space. But, this space is simply too large. They searched for a long time, but they couldn't find the so-called Devourer of Worlds. The information collected by the Foundation is not a lie to us, is it? A dark servant complained extremely unhappily. And those young people also showed unhappy expressions. Wait a minute, no. Sudden, Caecilius frowned, looking at the huge raised mountain ahead. Then he looked at the scarlet land under his feet. A moment later, he suddenly exclaimed, no. We are now on the body of the Devourer of Worlds. As soon as this sentence came out, everyone who heard this sentence exploded immediately. What? It's fake. They separated and searched for so long, they just stayed on the body of the Devourer of Worlds. It's too big. Isn't this normal? Do you have no idea about creatures with a height of 200 kilometers? Let me tell you a statistic. The space station is only 350 meters above the ground. About 1 kilometer. If the Foundation's information is correct, the Devourer of Worlds can touch the space station when he stands up. That's right, Mount Everest is only more than 8,000 meters away. But, seeing this with your own eyes is a shock that words can't express at all. The most frightening thing is that in the Foundation's information, it only says that the Devourer of Worlds is more than 200 kilometers away. Inside the gate of the alien world, after Caecilius uttered these words, all servants of darkness, immediately he became extremely excited. Find the chains that trap the Devourer of Worlds. Caecilius immediately became extremely excited. Release this Eater of Worlds, for the great Dormamu. Servants of darkness, and the young men who were brought here. He also roared madly, for the great Dormamu. For the great Eater of Worlds. For the great Eater of Worlds. See, Caecilius nodded in satisfaction, and said, let's go, let's find the chains and release the great Devourer of Worlds. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. After seeing this scene, all agents. I was taken aback for a moment. What's the situation? Didn't you just talk about Dormamu? How did he become the great Devourer of Worlds now? Nick Fury's complexion suddenly sank. Taking a deep breath, he said in a deep voice, Cognito hazard. Inside Kamar Taj, the Ancient One magician suddenly looked horrified. It would be fine if these young people were changed in perception. B. Caecilius and the others are the most devout and fanatical followers of Dormamu. No matter what method I use, I can't change their belief in Dormamu. Result now, it's just a few minutes to enter the gate of another world. Have their perceptions changed? But, she sighed, looking sad. I don't know if this is good or bad. At the same time, a dark dimension that does not belong to Earth. A pair of huge amounts of eyes. Open it quietly. Immediately afterwards, a suspicious voice suddenly resounded in the dark dimension. Where are my servants in the Earth dimension? They are obviously not dead. Why did they suddenly lose contact? Dark dimension. Dormamu's thoughts fluttered. He was originally a necromancer in the Earth dimension, accidentally discovered the dark space and entered here, in order to become the master of the dark space. For the incomparably powerful dark power, he abandoned his physical body, making it impossible to return to the Earth dimension. Unless someone guides him to the coordinates in the Earth dimension and applies specific dark magic laws to make him descend. But now, his dark servant, in the absence of death, they all lost contact with him. The gate of another world. Caecilius, and all the dark followers, on the Eater of Worlds, looking for the chains that imprisoned the Devourer of Worlds. Great Devourer of Worlds, fortunately I was inspired by you, otherwise, I don't know how long I would have to be deceived by that guy Ancient One. Caecilius' frantic voice sounded, just like he from long ago. It's like starting to believe in the Devourer of Worlds. Kamar Taj, the Ancient One magician looked horrified. Inferred from the words of Caecilius. This is obviously the reason why he believed in Dormamu, the king of the dark dimension. However now, Dormamu was replaced by this so-called Eater of Worlds. But Caecilius and his group didn't notice anything wrong. And most importantly, so far, the Devourer of Worlds has not awakened. That is to say, all these cognitohazards are passively caused by the sleeping Devourer of Worlds. This weird scene, even the Ancient One can't help but shiver. This cognitohazard is too weird. This so-called Devourer of Worlds must not be allowed to appear on Earth. Ancient One murmured in a low voice. In the picture of the light curtain. With dark magic, Caecilius and his party finally found that one, the remaining chain. This chain is very strong. However, compared with the huge body of the Devourer of Worlds, it appears as thin as a hair. Beside, there are also 6 thick chains that have been broken. It can be seen that these 7 chains, originally they were hooked by 7 heavy hooks, embedded in the back of the Devourer of Worlds. Seeing this chain, Caecilius and the remaining servants of darkness, and the faces of those young men, immediately he showed joy. Immediately, so he cast the most powerful dark magic, trying to cut the only remaining chain. However, no matter how hard they tried to attack, they couldn't make the chain shake even the slightest bit. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. That is, how could the chains that seal and imprison this kind of existence be broken so easily? This thing, for the time being, it should not be able to pass through the gate of another world, and cannot enter the Earth. But the next moment, Nick Fury made a sudden move. Wait a minute, even if this chain is not broken by these strange magicians at this moment. There were originally 7 chains, but now only 1 is broken. Why did the previous 6 chains break? Something has been trying to let it out. Still, this Devourer of Worlds has been breaking free from himself. The moment this guess came to mind, pupils of Nick Fury. Suddenly it shrank suddenly, inside the gate of the alien world. Why is this chain so tough? Experimented for a long time. Can't break the chains, even after shaking it a bit. Caecilius' mood instantly changed from excitement to rage. Then, he took a deep breath and said, with our strength, it is still far from being able to break free from the shackles of the great Devourer of Worlds. We need more help. Those servants of darkness, as well as the young people who were forced to follow in, they immediately nodded indignantly. Just like, from the very beginning, they have been a team. Immediately afterwards, they left this 2317H space and returned to the ground inside the gate of another world. Prepare to pass through the gate of another world and return to Earth. Asgard, Odin's sight, stay tightly on the chain that is still holding on and has not been broken. His brow, wrinkled tightly together. In his sight, that chain seems to be vibrating at an extremely slight frequency. This chain will definitely break within 30 years. Odin looked extremely dignified. 30 years, for the people of Asgard, is just a fleeting moment. At that time, if the Devourer of Worlds broke free from the shackles and successfully came to Earth, I'm afraid that even Asgard will be affected. In his one eye, A look of deep sadness flashed across. Then, he took a deep breath, and then talked about Galai. In the picture of the light curtain, when Caecilius and his party, after stepping out of the gate of the alien world, he directly pushed out the portal, preparing to transfer the gate of the alien world away. However, at this moment, a dark shadow, suddenly roaring, rushing towards Caecilius and his party at an extremely astonishing speed. Almost at the same time, in the hands of that figure, in an instant, a black long knife appeared, and it directly struck at a dark servant. Fast, let that dark servant have no reaction at all. At this moment, the head of the dark servant had already rolled to the ground. Then, the dark figure looked at Caecilius again. BR+, filled with violent scarlet color. Inside shield. Nick Fury watched this sudden scene blankly. Just now, what's going on? Who is this person who suddenly appeared? And why can it emerge from the void? Suddenly condensed a weapon. But when he saw the figure clearly, Nick Fury was taken aback for a moment. He had never seen this figure before, but these tattoos on the opponent's body gave him a very familiar feeling. It seems that Cain. Nick Fury froze for a moment. Yes, these tattoos on this figure. With the previous inventory. Anomalous Containment 073 Cain capable of deflecting any attack. The logo on the forehead is like the same source. Could this be Cain's brother, another anomalous containment Abel? Nick Fury speculated. But in front of such a dangerous gate to another world, there is an abnormal containment that is not sure whether it is good or bad, but it is obviously very crazy. But it is definitely not a good thing. Nick's spirit tightened, and even the light curtain on the screen, after the dark figure killed the dark servant, Caecilius then decisively launched the most powerful attack on that figure with the remaining dark servants. However, the speed and strength of that figure have reached a level that ordinary people can hardly imagine. Almost instantly, all the dark servants except Caecilius were killed by that figure like chopping melons and vegetables. Then, in the hand of that dark figure, a pitch-black weapon appeared again, slashing towards Caecilius. Catch! There was a soft sound. Caecilius' head rolled directly to the ground. But, on the left arm of that figure, however, was shrouded in a layer of black mist, which was constantly invading into its arm. Obviously, it was some dark magic that Caecilius had cast on him at the last minute. The gap with Cain is a bit big. Nick Fury watched and shook his head. Although this figure is very powerful, and there are those weapons that suddenly appeared. But, compared with Cain's sky-defying ability to completely reflect all damage, it is still completely incomparable. And now that his left arm has been eroded by dark magic, his strength will definitely drop a lot. However, the next moment, Nick Fury froze for an instant. See, on the screen of the light curtain. After all, the dark minions are dead. The originally crazy eyes of the dark figure gradually regained their clarity. Then, he glanced at his left arm, which was constantly being invaded by dark magic. Directly used the pitch-black blade in his hand to cut his own neck. Bang! The pitch-black blade fell directly to the ground. See this scene. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the agents' eyes widened immediately, and they looked at the screen in disbelief. Quote? Natasha Romanoff's face was full of puzzlement. What's the situation? Nick Fury also had a ghostly expression on his face. What's the situation? Isn't it just that the arm is constantly eroded by dark magic? Unexpectedly so decisive. Suicide without any hesitation. Online, after seeing this scene, everyone was silent for a moment. Then it exploded. What is this? Why did this man wipe his neck all of a sudden? I didn't even realize it. He just committed suicide. That's too decisive. This buddy looks stupid to me, isn't it because his arm is injured? Can't bear to commit suicide. To be honest, I don't understand, but I was shocked. This is too sudden. Wait a minute, look at this buddy's body. In the picture of the light curtain. At the moment when this figure died and fell to the ground. His dead body. It started to rot quickly. Soon. Only a pile of bones remained on the ground. And still decaying constantly. To the end, there are not even bones left, only a pile of ashes remains on the ground. Even the black weapon was corrupted together. From death to ashes. It didn't last even a minute. Seeing this scene, Nick Fury is completely messed up. This is no longer fear of death, this is completely begging for death. And just when Nick Fury was puzzled, then see. In the picture of the light curtain, the agents of the Foundation rushed into the manor. And the leader, it is the abnormal containment item 073 that was counted before, Pro. Looking at the ashes on the ground, there was no emotion on Cain's face. He opened his mouth directly and said, "Member of Mobile Task Force ALPHA-9, Anomalous Containment 076, Abel, has completed the execution of the target who suffered cognitive damage from Anomalous Containment 2317. Execute the containment of the abnormal containment object 2173 gate to another world." After hearing his order, the rest of the Foundation agents shouted loudly, "Yes." Then he began to close the door to the other world tightly, and carefully transported it to the armed helicopter outside. Mobile Task Force. Nick Fury froze for a moment. The agent who came to contain this time. It feels obviously more serious and skilled than the Foundation agents that appeared in the previous containment. This Mobile Task Force Alpha 9 should be similar to the Special Operations Team in S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury guessed in his mind. Then, his attention was shifted to Cain again. According to what Cain said just now, that figure is really Abel, the twin son of Cain in Myths and Legends. Nick Fury analyzed it. In the Foundation, is the codename Anomalous Containment 076. Immediately afterwards, he still couldn't help looking at the pile of ashes. But even so, why would you commit suicide? Is it because of the fear that the dark magic will threaten others, so in line with the core of the Foundation, he decided to die? But in this case, why the other agents, and Cain's face? Are you not surprised at all? It's just too calm, right? A deep incomprehension flashed across Nick Fury's face. This abnormal containment 076 Abel, what kind of special ability does it have? Nick Fury stared at the light curtain, thinking. As an anomaly containment, and it was Abel who had a great relationship with Cain. Is absolutely impossible. It's such an easy suicide. Abel's body, it should have the same powerful ability as Cain. The power and speed of the Superman that Abel showed just now. And the jet black blade that can suddenly appear. Although very powerful, but it is still far inferior to Cain's terrifying ability. Think of, Cain was so decisive that he committed suicide. In a split second, many speculations emerged in Nick Fury's mind. Perhaps, this Abel is just a clone of the real Abel, or something like duplication. Inside the mountain villa, this Abel, doesn't he feel mentally normal? Colonel Rhodes looked at the light curtain, and was stunned for a while. It was so crazy when it came out, and its arm was injured a little, so it naturally committed suicide. This is simply not an ordinary clean plaque. I advise you to take the anomaly contained in the Foundation's inventory lightly. As soon as Stark tested the laser transmitter in his hand, he said, "None of these abnormal containments is simple." "Ah, yes, yes, yes." Colonel Rhodes nodded again and again. Looking at Stark, he smiled and said, "By the way, you agreed to eat Stark Industrial Building, when will it start?" 383. The movement of Stark's test suddenly froze. Then, as if he didn't hear it, he continued to shift his attention to his own experiment. Cain, who was counted before, and the metal on his body, brought him great inspiration. Although he can't have the power beyond ordinary people like those abnormal containment objects or other monsters. But it can be achieved by technology, to a similar degree. The flesh and blood are weak, and the machinery soars. The first method that came to his mind was something like armor. After all, he couldn't bear to be like Cain. Replace your limbs with something like metal. He looked at the bench. The battle armor that has been preliminarily manufactured is frowning. It seems that something is still missing. After half a sound, Stark's eyes suddenly brightened, and he said in great surprise, "That's right. There is still an internal intelligence system that can connect these things together. It would be best if it could be automatically assembled on my body." Looking suddenly excited, then hurried to Stark in the Stark Industrial Building. Colonel Rhodes was stunned. Asgard, looking at the Foundation's containment force. Taking away the door to another world, Li Gong shook his head slightly. Although Cain and Abel's abilities displayed surprised him. But, compared with the Devourer of Worlds and the Gate of Other Worlds, it is much worse. That 200-kilometer-sized creature. And, it also has the abnormal ability to quietly change the cognition of those who are close to it. People whose cognition has been changed will not even notice that their thinking has changed. These add up too. He couldn't help but feel a burst of fear. This Devourer of Worlds might really be at the same level as the Devourer of Planets. Odin whispered inwardly. And what scares him the most is such a powerful existence. It might even be just the projection of that unknown, supreme divinity. B. What a powerful existence would that so-called supreme divinity be? Odin suddenly found. I seem to. Can't even imagine it. This feeling of powerlessness out of control. Let him, the Lord of the Nine Realms, the King of the Gods, feel extremely disturbed. Inside Site 17 base. Gate to another world. It was also transported to the base. Congratulations. Abnormal containment 2317 gate to another world, successful containment. You have harvested 1 trillion communication value. You have successfully acquired the cognitohazard meme, immune feature. Hearing the sound of the system in his mind, Lin Yan nodded slightly. Look at the gate of another world that has been locked up heavily. How dangerous is this thing? Much more than all previous anomaly containments combined. As for the Devourer of Worlds, what he was originally is actually not important anymore. But as long as there is life, it was once thought to be a projection of that supreme divinity. Then it already is. The supreme divinity, whose essence is an idea, is a whirling creation, a metaphysical concept. Supreme divinity. Take a deep breath. Lin Yan is preparing for the next anomalous containment inventory. In my mind, the system's voice suddenly rang again. Ding. Congratulations. You have obtained an additional reward. Abnormal containment 2000 mechanical desperation, partial structure. Hear this voice. Even Lin Yan couldn't help being taken aback, with a smile on his face involuntarily. The reward this time. It's actually a mechanical descendant. Even if it is only a part of the structure, it is amazing enough. A complete mechagod is the facility that the Foundation regards as its ultimate whole card. Its function, in case the K-class end of the world scenario cannot be prevented in time. Rebuild civilization. To prevent, humanity is headed toward extinction or near extinction. Except for the most important computer programs and weapons facilities. Anomaly Containment 2000 is equipped with 500,000 human replicators. At its peak, Anomalous Containment 2000 is capable of producing 100,000 non-anomalous humans capable of growth and development per day. Then, human beings can be directly advanced to any age required, and implant various memories. In this way, the survival of human beings can be continued and civilization can be quickly restored. It can be said, this is the product of the crystallization of the entire Foundation. But this part of the mechanic seance that Lin Yan got was not complete. Program. There is only one main program, and there are no other subroutines. But even that is amazing enough. FFLX. Even Lin Yan couldn't help being a little surprised. Kamar Taj. On Ancient One Magician's face, the look of shock still persisted. Just now, Caecilius, and a servant of darkness. After approaching the Eater of Worlds, the cognition is quietly modified. Is enough to prove that the Devourer of Worlds, imprisoned by the seal, is probably not much weaker than Dormamu, the King of the Dark Dimension. Even, and possibly even stronger than Dormamu. And the Foundation's guess, it makes Ancient One Magician even more terrifying. Fortunately, that's just the Foundation's guess. The Ancient One Magician murmured in a dazed low voice. But in her mind, I still can't help but recall the last line of information on the Abnormal Containment 2317, the Gate of Another World. However, even if that thing is the projection of the Supreme Divinity, it is only a guess of the Foundation, but it also proves that the Supreme Divinity does indeed exist in the eyes of the Foundation. It's just, this Supreme Divinity, what is it? Ancient One Magician stared at the light curtain, frowning deeply. In her mind, she constantly speculated. Refers to a powerful existence. No, it shouldn't be. Otherwise, in the Foundation's information, the data after the Supreme Divinity would not be deleted. Then, this Supreme Divinity should be a group. An incredibly powerful group. Come to this conclusion, Ancient One Magician couldn't help but gasp. Fear only Dormamu, King of the Dark Dimension. In the eyes of such beings, he is just a bug egg. I am afraid that only the source of all magic, the Trinity Emperor Wyshan, may have the strength to contend with it. After a long time, Ancient One Magician is not thinking. Sighed deeply. In any case, this kind of existence was no longer something she could think about and deal with. That sense of powerlessness, born again in her heart. It's just, why did the Foundation know about the existence of the Supreme God? Suddenly, Ancient One Magician was taken aback. She thought of one she'd been ignoring before. But an extremely important thing. Could it be, in this mysterious Foundation, there is also a supreme divine existence? Or at least, the Foundation has faced this kind of existence. Thinking of this, the color of horror appeared on the face of Ancient One Magician again. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all agents are stepping up to record and analyzing the content displayed on the light curtain just now, the obtained information. So, those special operations teams in the Foundation are called Mobile Task Forces. Anomalous Containment 073 Abel and Abnormal Containment 076 Cain are all in the Mobile Task Force named ALPHA-9. It is preliminarily inferred that this Mobile Task Force can use those abnormal containments as armed calendar area. For now, I don't know how many Mobile Task Forces there are in the Foundation. When Abel took out the weapon, he found out through 10,000 times slow motion that it was from. An agent stared at the computer screen in front of him, thinking for a long time. Only then did he come up with a suitable wording, and said, it was pulled out from a tiny crack in space that can be called a small hole in space. As for where the space crack leads, it is temporarily unknown. The weapon is made of a completely non-reflective black substance. The intelligence agent pointed to the computer screen. The screenshot of the black weapon on the ground said, moreover, once this weapon leaves the abnormal containment 0762, it will disappear quickly. Nick Fury, Natasha Romanoff, and all the top executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. nodded their heads frequently. Have to say, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s intelligence agent analysis ability is still very good. Then, after they have reported all the content they can analyze, together with Nick Fury, Natasha Romanoff and other top executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. Then he went to the core meeting room with a serious face. Staring at the light curtain outside, he waited quietly. By convention, now it's time for the next anomalous containment, and the inventory begins. However, at this moment, an intelligence agent suddenly ran in a panic, panting, Director Nick Fury. An agent who was out on a mission just now found an ice sculpture. There is a person wrapped in the ice sculpture, and this person still has signs of life. According to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s data comparison, this person is the first transformed super soldier during World War II, Stephen Rogers. Captain Roger, the super soldier who fought the Red Skull. Hearing this information, the S.H.I.E.L.D. executives were shocked. Then their expressions became extremely subtle. Looking at each other, they were silent to each other and looked in other directions. Nick Fury stood up immediately, and couldn't help saying, Captain Stephen Rogers. He's still alive. During World War II, Stephen Rogers fell into the sea during a fierce battle with Red Skull. Then, everyone thought he was dead. Unexpectedly, he has been frozen until now, and he is still alive. *7. A smile appeared on Nick Fury's face. I was about to leave and went to see Roger. That huge amounts of light curtain. But it suddenly lit up. Nick Fury's attention was instantly diverted to it. Dang even sat down again. He looked at the light curtain with a serious expression. The awakening of Captain America is certainly something to be happy about. But now the moment. This abnormal containment inventory is the most important thing. And at this time, above the light curtain, words suddenly appeared. 10 cognitive hazardous containment objects and reality benders inventory. 9th place. Anomalous containment 2599 not good enough. Object class. Euclid. Abnormal containment -2599 hyphenation point not good enough. Object class. Euclid. See these two lines of information. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the agents who were about to analyze it immediately were stunned. According to the experience gained from the previous abnormal containment inventory, the name after the serial number of the anomaly contained. Generally speaking, they are all closely related to the ability, or characteristic, of the abnormal containment object. So their analysis also starts from this aspect. B. This time the abnormal containment. The name actually comes with a, not so good. What the hell kind of name is this? Don't talk about ability and features. They couldn't even analyze the form of the abnormal containment, whether it was a creature or an object. Not good enough. Natasha Romanoff's brow furrowed. In any case, the names given to the anomalous containment objects by the Foundation definitely have their meanings. Only, she couldn't figure out the meaning of the 3 words, not good enough. Nick Fury was staring at the content on the light curtain, but heaved a sigh of relief. All abnormal containment items counted this time. If light is characteristically, they are definitely extremely dangerous. But the item level of the abnormal containment item in this inventory is Euclid level. What does this mean? This shows that this time, no matter what the abnormal containment is, it is at least not malicious to human beings. Compared with other abnormal containments, as long as you pay a little attention, the danger is actually not too great. Just like Cain. But thinking of Cain, Nick Fury's expression froze slightly again. The problem is that I am afraid that some people take the initiative to go to these extremely dangerous containments and get 21 sick. Thinking of this, Nick Fury was a little relaxed, but he couldn't help becoming a little nervous again. His eyes looked at the light ticket again. At this moment, the content in the light curtain was updated again. Picture of a little girl soon appeared in the light curtain. Next, Japanese literature. Anomalous Containment 2599 is a 14-year-old female from Babin, formerly known as Xena Cho, Jiaozhe Na. Once this information appears, almost instantly on the internet, it exploded. The anomalous containment this time, so cute. It feels like the little sister next door. Aussie. The anomaly contained this time is actually a person from our universe country. Ha 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 ha. There are humans showing abnormal characteristics in our universe country. What does this mean? This shows that our universe country is the first race that God loves. People in your universe country, don't you understand? This is clearly talking about people from the country next door to you. So what? We are all of the same ancestor. In short, this anomalous containment object 2599 is definitely a person around our universe. Ah, yes, yes. Everything belongs to your universe country, so you have the ability to let the officials of your universe country come to pick up the abnormal containment this time. Dot. As soon as this sentence came out, the internet was instantly quiet for a few minutes. Many people suddenly held back their laughter. This yin and yang is too fierce. If the anomalous containment is dangerous, then the Cosmos Nation officials would definitely not dare to come. If the anomalous containment is not dangerous, and the United States is there, then the cosmic country officials still dare not. Kamar Taj. Is it a humanoid abnormal containment? The Ancient One magician heaved a sigh of relief. From this photo of the little girl, as well as the Foundation's setting of its level, the little girl should not be hostile, even kind. However, only slightly, because this does not mean that this little girl is not in danger. Because certain abilities, even unconsciously, it is also extremely dangerous for others. It may even suffer inexplicable changes. It's just like the Devourer of Worlds and the Gate of Otherworlds. Merely by those who are close to it, cognition will be polluted. I don't know, this time the abnormal containment, the abnormal ability, whether it is a reality distortion or a cognitive hazard. Ancient One magician murmured in a low voice, looking at the light curtain. Voice just fell. The information in the light curtain is refreshed again. Anomalous Containment 2599's main anomalous property is that it is mentally unable to resist any direct instructions issued to her. This phenomenon depends on whether Abnormal Containment 2599 thinks that it has received direct instructions. If it does not think that it has received instructions, it will not complete the work of the instructions. This property has not yet been found to be limited. And Anomalous Containment 2599 has completed instructions including self-harm, violence against others, and other inappropriate behavior. Anomalous Containment 2599's mental resistance index is 0, which is the lowest score in the current file. Can't refuse any order. See here, the internet exploded in an instant. What kind of abnormal property is this? Self-mutilation. Won't you refuse? To be honest, I think of some bad things about this ability and characteristics. Is this just a 14-year-old kid? Don't drive upstairs. Thank you. So, what kind of abnormal attribute is this? Where is the abnormality? There should be many people who execute instructions perfectly. Wait, this anomalous containment seems kind of scary. Quote question mark question mark question mark. Do you want to listen to what you are talking about? This is not scary. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., a group of agents from the S.H.I.E.L.D. intelligence department. Then he thought about it carefully. Their gaze. They all stay tightly in the third row of data. This property has not been found to be limiting. Natasha Romanoff suddenly said solemnly. As soon as this sentence came out, all the agents couldn't help but look at her. Nick Fury's face. It also sank suddenly, from this information. If his conjecture is correct, this abnormal containment may be more dangerous than he imagined. Even, possibly the most dangerous containment item so far. She cannot refuse any orders from others, and, this nature has no limit. Nick Fury took a deep breath, but slowly said the speculation. That is to say, whoever encounters this abnormal containment object can use it as a wishing machine to make all wishes come true. Voice just fell. The entire S.H.I.E.L.D. has become extremely quiet. A moment later, Nick Fury took several deep breaths. Then he continued slowly. And the scariest thing is that her mental attribute resistance is 0, that is to say, if she encounters a cognitohazardous containment, then. Upon hearing this passage, all S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. His face couldn't help but become extremely ugly. Kamar Taj. The abnormal containment object this time is actually a reality distortion abnormality. Ancient One Magician's complexion was pale. And from this data, this anomalous containment -2599 is also terrifyingly powerful. Just like her abnormal characteristic. If anyone orders her, wipe out the Sorcerer Supreme, or even wipe out the entire Kamar Taj, maybe she can do it. So far, no restrictions found. Although this sentence does not contain much information, it is really terrifying. Take a deep breath. The Ancient One Magician frowned tightly, and said to himself, but, why is this anomalous containment called, not good enough? This doesn't seem to have much to do with this abnormal attribute. The voice just fell. In the screen of the light curtain. We updated with new document. Anomaly Containment 2599's lesser anomalous properties or its inability to fully complete and given instructions. This property allows Anomalous Containment 2599 to complete most of any commands given to it, but unable to complete all parts of the commands or to complete the commands satisfactorily. Repeated experiments have shown that this property is uncontrolled, and due to the object's aversion or rebellion against its instructions. Due to its secondary nature, Anomalous Containment 2599 cannot complete the instructions even if it wants to. Once Abnormal Containment 2599 is instructed to do something, even if it could be done before, it cannot be done successfully afterwards. Then, other instructions can remove this property. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., see these materials. All faces. Can't help but become extremely weird. I can't refuse any order, but I can't complete it perfectly either. Natasha Romanoff couldn't help but look weird. She looked at the data in the light curtain. The expression was a little dull. No wonder the Foundation gave her a name called, Not Good Enough. Isn't this good enough? It was so apt. Shook his head. Nick Fury couldn't help muttering in a low voice. Does this mean that the order was carried out, but not fully? At the same time, another location within S.H.I.E.L.D. Steve Rogers, who had just woken up, looked outside with a dejected face. After the fight with Red Skull, it's like having a dream. An awakening comes. Everything that was familiar in the past has disappeared, and everything is so strange now, and even the strangeness makes him a little scared. How much is here, and what is that thing? Rogers pointed at the huge amounts of light curtain, and asked with a confused face, what Foundation? What anomalous containment? It's not good enough. What is it? This 140. Captain Rogers, it will be difficult for me to explain it to you in a while. The agent responsible for taking care of him said. Quite a while, to put Rogers' current situation, as well as the affairs of the Foundation, I roughly told him about it. You mean? Rogers immediately widened his eyes, looked at the light curtain in disbelief, and said, you say this thing is real? The agent nodded. Fraud. Rogers suddenly became very anxious. I watched quietly from the corner of my eye. A glance at the surroundings. This must be the base of Hydra. Then, he directly attacked and knocked out the unsuspecting agent. After confirming that the other party just passed out and there was no real death. Then he tiptoed and left S.H.I.E.L.D. Find Bucky first, then, wait. Immediately afterwards, he was shocked by the towering modern buildings in front of him. But, these buildings, compared with the huge light curtain in the sky, it seems a little insignificant. You can still see this thing outside. Rogers stared at the light curtain, only feeling shocked. Could it be true what he said? When I thought of the agent just now, Rogers felt unbelievable about the things he told himself. If you leave your sight, you will break the sculpture of a person's neck. Don't look directly, or you will die. A shy person. The Red Sea object that can connect to another world contains the unclean who destroyed the whole world. And in another world, it is the Devourer of Worlds who imprisoned more than 200 kilometers. And the human beings who can bounce back all attacks, the immortal lizards that can evolve infinitely. Every message, it is too much beyond Roger's imagination. It made him feel that this was outrageous. How could these things really exist? That's why he felt that the agent should be someone from Red Skull. Even thought, I was captured by Hydra in the Hydra base. But now it seems that these strange things. Seems like, really, he couldn't help looking at the huge amounts of light curtain again. And at this time, light curtain, all text is gone. A set of pictures, it will soon appear on the top. In the picture of the light curtain, it looks like it is a very simple orphanage. Inside the orphanage, it is a group of children, under the supervision of several orphanage nurses, playing with some old toys on his own. See this picture. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the agents in the intelligence department immediately became excited. Because, in this light curtain screen, the characteristics of that orphanage are very obvious. With resources from S.H.I.E.L.D., it is very easy to find out where it is and respond accordingly. And Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff, and a group of S.H.I.E.L.D. executives. His eyes quickly searched the light curtain for all the figures of girls who looked like teens. Soon, they found their target. The one sitting in the corner, playing with his own building blocks. The expression on his face is full of sorrow, and he always looks around timidly. Looks like a very lovable figure. This girl. Like the photo in the light curtain just now. It's exactly the same. She is the anomaly contained this time 2599 hyphenation point not good enough. Nick Fury's breathing couldn't help but quicken. On the other hand, Natasha Romanoff was watching slightly. The appearance of this girl reminds her of her own childhood. Exactly, it was me before entering the Red Room. The one who has not received much love since childhood. Extremely inferior, a little girl who cares a lot about other people's opinions and doesn't know how to reject others. And at this time, in the picture of the light curtain, the nurses who were joking suddenly received a call. Wait for the phone to hang up. And they became serious. Turn around, he said to the children. Okay everyone, Miss Virginia Potts from Stark Industries Group is coming to us soon. Don't forget what we said yesterday. Wait a minute, let's rehearse yesterday's welcoming ceremony again. Now, immediately put away all the toys in your hand. After the nurse finished speaking, all the children immediately started to act and put away their toys. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., after the nurse said this, along with Nick Fury, Natasha Romanoff and all S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, his attention was instantly concentrated, and he looked at the body that was not good enough in the picture. They want to know exactly, how did the abnormal containment and secondary abnormal phenomena manifest themselves this time? After all, the order to put away the toys is really too simple. What's more, the toy in front of the girl is just 3 building blocks. But the next moment, they were stunned. I see the screen. After hearing what the nurse said, the girl visibly trembled, with a frightened expression on her face. But take a deep breath. Grab the building blocks and put them in the toy bar in front of you. Piece. 2 pieces. They were all successfully placed in the toy bar. However, when the girl bent down to pick up the 3rd building block, she couldn't bend down anyway. There was an extremely confused expression on her face. At this moment, all the other children's toys have been put away. Zhao Zena, the nurse's voice sounded, it's you again. It's like this every time. Hurry up and pick up the last block. Hear this sentence. The girl bent down quickly and picked up the building blocks. Isn't this done? Nick Fury whispered, but he hadn't finished speaking. I saw it in astonishment. As soon as the girl picked up the building block, she immediately put it down. An anxious expression appeared on her face. Obviously, she didn't know why she was like this. Zhao Zena, are you going against me on purpose, W? Seeing this scene, the nurse immediately became angry and shouted one after another, every time I deliberately make mistakes at the last moment. The rehearsal of the welcome ceremony is like this, even picking up a toy today. Zhao Zena was about to cry. She shook her head and said, no, it's not. Forget it. The female nurse waved her hands again and again, bent down and put the building block into the toy bar. Then, he said to Zhao Zena very earnestly, Zhao Zena, I know your ability is very good. You have been the best in the first half of the rehearsal. I don't know who made you unhappy, which made you deliberately make mistakes in the second half. But today is very important. Miss Virginia Potts from Stark Industries came to our orphanage to donate. I beg you, don't make mistakes, okay? Hear this. An anxious expression appeared on Zhao Zena's face, but she still nodded without hesitation. Seeing this scene, the female nurse immediately showed a gratified smile and rubbed the girl's head. What a good boy. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Seeing this scene, Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff looked at each other. According to what is said in the Foundation inventory video, then this Zhao Zena will definitely still make mistakes in the following welcoming ceremony. This abnormal characteristic really made her suffer. Natasha Romanoff said with emotion. After being transformed in the Red Room and being trained as an agent. If she is not perfect, she will be beaten and scolded in various ways, and she will be given additional training. And in her heart, she can only blame herself. So she can understand Zhao Zena's mood in the picture. And at this time, in the picture of the light curtain, Miss Potts, welcome, surrounded by all the staff of the orphanage. Little Pepper walked to the children's room in the orphanage, and looked around. However, when she saw Zhao Zena's figure, she was taken aback for a moment. He quickly took out his mobile phone, and his pupils shrank suddenly after seeing the content on it. The eyes looking at Zhao Zena were full of excitement and disbelief. Behind her, all the nurses in the orphanage looked at each other in blank dismay, not knowing why. Miss Potts, the children have prepared a welcome ceremony for you. A nurse immediately gestured. Immediately afterwards, ADERTISEMENT. These children nodded immediately, and then stood in their respective positions, dancing the dance that had been rehearsed countless times. Although other children danced very skillfully, compared with Zhao Zena, they were much worse. It's as elegant as a master dancer. Everyone was taken aback. However, just when the dance was about to end, Zhao Zena suddenly fell to the ground and knocked down a child next to her. Suddenly made a mess. The staff of the orphanage immediately looked at Pepper nervously. But found, Pepper wasn't unhappy at all, but looked at Zhao Zena excitedly. The staff were stunned. Cautiously tentatively said. Then Miss Potts, look at the donation. Definitely no problem. Little Pepper decisively agreed. Then he looked at Zhao Zena and said, but I have a request. I like this little child very much. I want to adopt her. Adopt Zhao Zena. The staff of the orphanage froze, thinking of the reaction of Little Pepper just now, and immediately guessed, could it be that Zhao Zena is Miss Potts' daughter? But on the surface, the staff of the orphanage still said happily, definitely yes, Miss Virginia Potts. It is Zhao Zena's luck to be adopted by you. Other kids, even staff. The eyes that looked at Zhao Zena were full of envy. Soon, the relevant procedures are completed. The staff of the orphanage wanted to make a good impression in front of Pepper, so they squatted down and said kindly to Zhao Zena, Miss Virginia Potts will be your mother from now on. When you arrive at your new home, you must obedient, sensible, don't offend Miss Virginia Potts. I didn't finish my sentence. He was suddenly interrupted by Little Pepper, okay. Don't worry about other things. The staff was suddenly stunned. This reaction is wrong. Miss Potts was so excited just now. Why did she get angry all of a sudden? Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., seeing this scene, the expressions of all the agents couldn't help but become a little weird. It is clear, Pepper is on the way to the orphanage, and he has already learned the information about the inventory of abnormal containment this time. The words of the orphanage staff. If it is really said, then it will really become an order. With the weird properties of the anomalous containment this time, who knows what will happen? That's why Xiaojiao interrupted the staff member. Nick Fury is staring at the figure of Zhao Zena in the light curtain. A look of hesitation appeared on his face. Soon, under the leadership of Pepper, Zhao Zena went straight to the top of Stark Industrial Building, Stark's workshop. Mr. Stark, JARVIS is pleased to serve you. Sitting in front of the computer, Stark worried about adding an artificial intelligence system to his armor. When he saw Little Pepper and Zhao Zena coming in, he was taken aback for a moment. Little Pepper, who is she? Stark turned his head away and asked. He was diving into his plan with all his heart, and he didn't pay attention to this time's abnormal containment inventory. Anomalous containment items that have been counted this time. Hearing the words of Little Pepper, Stark's pupils shrank instantly. The eyes that looked at Zhao Zena were full of extreme fear. Before he remembered, what happened to the two abnormal containment objects I encountered? Who knows how dangerous the abnormal containment is this time? The body instinctively took 2 steps back, terrified. Little Pepper, are you crazy? Seeing this scene, the internet went crazy with laughter. PFF ha ha ha. Stark is scared out of his mind by the 2 abnormal containments he encountered before. I laughed so hard, I didn't expect Tang Stark to be so scared. I have started to take screenshots, and I will make a table later. Thank you. Stark Industries is welcome to come to me to buy the copyright of your boss. Inside the Stark Industrial Building. Hear Pepper's explanation. Looking at the computer again, there is information about the abnormal containment items that have been counted this time. The fear in Stark's eyes dissipated. Not good enough. Can't refuse orders, but can't execute them perfectly. He looked at the bewildered Zhao Zena in surprise. Hesitation for a while. He took out a piece of white paper and said, "You turn this paper into red paper." Zhao Zena didn't refuse, but timidly accepted the blank paper. Almost instantly, the white paper immediately turned yellow. Seeing this scene, Stark's pupils shrank suddenly. Then, an expression of ecstasy suddenly appeared on his face. Kamar Taj. After seeing this scene, Ancient One Magician was slightly taken aback. It's just changing the color of the paper. There are many magics that can do this. This little girl, obviously wasn't enchanted by it. I don't know how to do it. She hesitated a bit. Directly activated Eye of Agamotto. Next moment, she froze in place, no matter how she looks at it. This is not to change the properties of matter by magic. De nuo how instead, it has changed directly from the most fundamental level of the material dimension. The difference between the two is huge. Is this the reality bender's ability? It's completely different from magic. Ancient One Magician couldn't help murmuring in a low voice. Shield, all agents are also busy. 20,000 times slow motion. I can't see it. 2 million times slower, still can't see it. Director Nick Fury, we've already used 200 million times slow motion, I can't tell what's going on. The agent in charge of recording and analyzing yelled in horror. The moment this piece of paper came into contact with anomalous containment 2599, it immediately changed color. Both Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff nodded slightly with flat faces, and ordered lightly, continue to observe and analyze. After so many anomalous containments before, just changing the color of the paper can no longer surprise them. And the other direction for S.H.I.E.L.D. The newly awakened Captain America. Looking at the content in the light curtain, his eyes widened immediately. His face was full of bewilderment. What is this thing? Magic, or something? On the screen of the light curtain. Can't refuse, but can't be perfected, and no restrictions have been found yet. Stark looked at the yellow paper in his hand in disbelief. A moment later, he suddenly became excited, looking at Zhao Zena. The voice became trembling because of excitement. Now, help me make a new artificial intelligence. Thought about it, he added. I want the most powerful artificial intelligence. Thought for a moment, Stark added. I want the most powerful artificial intelligence. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. After hearing Stark's words, all the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were stunned. Nick Fury's eyes widened immediately. This Stark, did you really use the anomalous containment as a wishing machine? But, when you see the screen, that timid girl. After hearing Stark's command, he actually sat in front of the computer in front of him. Immediately afterwards, then at an incredible speed, when tapping on the computer screen, Nick Fury quickly said, let the people in the technical department quickly record and report. But soon, the news from the S.H.I.E.L.D. technical department stunned Nick Fury. Director Nick Fury, these programs we simply can't document. The head of the technical department looks at the light curtain. With a bitter face, he said, "Don't talk about recording, I can't even read it." Nick Fury was dumbfounded. S.H.I.E.L.D. technical department people. It can be said that the top group of people on Earth in this regard is not an exaggeration. As a result, now, you can't even read it. However, it's just a program. Compared to other threats, it shouldn't be too big. Muttering something in a low voice, Nick Fury looked at the light curtain again. On the screen of the light curtain, looking at Zhao Zena's extremely skilled appearance, Stark froze too. He looked at the screen, and an incomparable expression appeared on his face instantly. At the moment's JARVIS, although it is only the prototype of artificial intelligence. But it is already the result of Stark's research for a long time, and it is definitely ahead of the entire world by a large margin. But with the little girl in front of me, this thing she just made with her hands, the difference is not that big. There are even some things that I can't understand at all. These abnormal containments are really amazing. Stark couldn't help laughing at himself. But the next moment, he suddenly thought of Zhao Zena's information. Although this abnormal containment cannot reject any instructions, but in the end, it will inevitably fail to complete successfully. That is to say, abnormal containment 8132599 is not good enough. Although the artificial intelligence created looks very powerful now, it will inevitably fail. Staring carefully at the video recorded by Pepper, Stark mused. A moment later, suddenly his eyes lit up. This anomalous containment, the so-called inability to be completed in the end, is extremely close to success, and it is not necessarily a failure. There may also be big loopholes or deficiencies. For example, the nurse at the orphanage asked her to pick up all the blocks. But in the end, Zhao Zena only picked up 2 building blocks, and the remaining one could not be picked up. That's the instruction not being fully completed. That is to say, as long as he asks enough, that's it. In this way, even if some of the requirements are not met, as long as the rest meet the requirements, it is enough. Thinking of this, Stark also stopped hesitation, and hurriedly continued. This artificial intelligence must have independent thinking, the most powerful computing power, and be able to run battles in various situations. Finally, it must maintain world peace. Moreover, it must be within half an hour. He made all the demands he could think of in one go. And upon hearing these demands, Zhao Zena just nodded anxiously. Seeing this scene, inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the agents were stunned for a moment. This Stark is too greedy, right? To actually make so many demands on Zhao Zena in one go. Are you really using this anomalous containment as a wishing machine? And Natasha Romanoff and Nick Fury shines instantly. After a short thought, they also guessed, why did Stark suddenly make so many demands? Stark is indeed a smart person, this operation is really too smart. Nick Fury couldn't help but said. Natasha Romanoff nodded too, a twinkle in her eye. In such a short period of time, you can think of such a solution. In this case, wouldn't it be possible to perfectly utilize the ability of abnormal containment 2599, and really use it as a wishing machine? But, why, CBFJ? I always feel a little uneasy. Nick Fury stared at the picture in the light curtain and murmured. On the screen of the light curtain, the girl quickly stood up from the computer. While at the same time, a virtual image instantly appeared on the computer equipment. It's done so quickly. Stark suddenly showed surprise. He hurried to the computer and started to operate it. Tat, hiss, a sound of gasping for air came suddenly. Stark stared at the computer, and looked at Zhao Zena with a shocked look on his face. This, compared with this newly created artificial intelligence. At this moment, JARVIS is really just like a younger brother. But what Stark couldn't understand was that, in his opinion, this artificial intelligence has so many bugs, how can it work? This is simply unbelievable. This girl, can anything really be done? Please name me, sir. At this time, a mechanical sound came. Stark thought for a while, and said, let's call it Ultron. Kamar Taj. Hearing this voice from within the light curtain, the Ancient One magician was stunned for a moment. Ultron. This is the same as her original. The future scene with Eye of Agamotto. It was born several years in advance. And it also needs the help of Mind Gem to complete the production. The result is now done. Since the inventory video of this foundation came out, the future she saw seemed to be disrupted. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but glanced at Strange, whose right hand was replaced with cloth material. Then he sighed silently, and at this time, the light curtain suddenly went black. When the screen appears again, the figure of Zhao Zena has disappeared. Only Stark is left, excitedly checking this newborn artificial intelligence. The computing power is really frighteningly high. There is also independent thinking, and all of these have been done. The more you check, Stark's expression became more and more excited. And within S.H.I.E.L.D., after seeing the content in the light curtain, all agents, but it was extremely tense, observed repeatedly. Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff. His line of sight stayed firmly on the screen of the light curtain, not daring to look away. Just when the light curtain turned black, in the end, what happened? Why did anomalous containment 2599 disappear? Possessing the containment of this kind of omnipotent ability, if it gets out of hand. Just thinking of that picture, Nick Fury couldn't help shaking all over. And, judging from Stark's reaction with Pepper, none of them seemed to notice the disappearance of this anomalous containment at all. In the end, what happened? Set this matter as the highest authority task. All agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. go to investigate and solve it immediately. Took a deep breath. Nick Fury looked at the light curtain again with extreme anxiety. Picture of light. No problem. No problem at all. Stark almost roared with excitement. But after a while, his brows were tightly wrinkled. Strangeness. Didn't it mean that this anomalous containment 2599 can't refuse commands, but can't accomplish anything? Why did the request I just made? But it's all been done. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Stark froze. He only now finds out. The anomalous humanoid containment has disappeared. And I don't even have any memory of it. Could it be that he ran out while he was concentrating on this artificial intelligence system? However, when he asked about Pepper, there was also a dazed look on little Pepper's face. Go and find out where she is. Without my permission, it is impossible for her to leave this floor. Stark ordered, although he is well aware that anomalous containment 2699 is important. But now his mind is full of this thing that he has been thinking about for a long time. Then, he turned his attention again, transferred to this newly born artificial intelligence Ultron. His face was full of amazement. It's amazing. It's really amazing. After a very emotional sentence, Stark looked at the parts of the battle armor he had made, and said in a low voice, "Then now, only Zhan Shen has not been tested." Immediately afterwards, there was a gleam in Stark's eyes. A moment later, Ultron is plugged into the Warframe's internal systems. Ultron, Stark growled. Immediately afterwards, he placed the armor parts on the test bench. Then they will run one by one directly. And they quickly posted on him. Brush. Next moment, the armor on the extremities glows, providing powerful momentum that sends Stark flying. See, Stark's eyes were filled with excitement. Ultron, you are amazing. That's what I should do, Mr. Stark. A mechanical sound sounded. But, when Stark flies to a certain height, the mechanical sound sounded again. Mr. Stark, I don't recommend you continue to increase the altitude, because your armor cannot withstand such a low temperature for the time being. Seeing this scene, the internet immediately exploded. What? It's really flying. Is this artificial intelligence system so good? Oh my god, now those so-called artificial intelligence systems are nothing compared to them. Can you believe that this is a little girl? In half an hour, something came out. That's not a little girl, that's a reality bender in an anomalous containment. By the way, I suddenly thought of something. You said, if you order this abnormal containment to kill twice, what effect will it have? Upstairs, you have this idea, it's a pity not to go to the Foundation as AD class personnel. Screen 1. After being reminded by Ultron, it was only then that Stark thought of this. Quickly lowered the altitude. Let yourself return to the Stark building again. His face, an expression full of comfort and excitement. This artificial intelligence system is simply amazing, even more perfect than I imagined. But, among the requirements I just asked, there is absolutely no fulfillment. Which one is it? Stark mused. And at this time, Little Pepper suddenly rushed in with an anxious expression on his face. Stark. There is no trace of that abnormal containment object, and the Stark industrial monitor just broke down. Hear this. Stark froze for a moment. There was also a look of panic on his face. Surveillance is broken. This means that it was definitely done by someone just now. And, he himself. I have no memory of what just happened. Who the hell? There was a look of horror on Stark's face. Most importantly, this newborn artificial intelligence Ultron allowed him to see the heaven-defying energy experience of the abnormal containment object. In case it disappeared mysteriously, it was obtained by some people with ulterior motives. That was an unforeseen disaster. Thinking of this, Stark stood up immediately too, ready to go to himself. Thought about it, he said to Ultron again. Ultron, start connecting to the external network now. Learn everything about human beings. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., with Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff. And the mood of all the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents became particularly heavy. Ability is such a heaven-defying anomalous containment. It disappeared, and at this moment, the picture in the light curtain suddenly changed. Immediately afterwards, several lines of text are revealed on it. Abnormal containment 2599 not good enough, test record. Nick Fury was taken aback for a moment. Test record. Nick Fury froze. Then he couldn't help but want to yell. Don't the Foundation know? Is the anomalous containment 2599 so horrific and anomaly gone? Do you still have the time to get this test record? But suddenly he strikes again. Wait a minute, comma. Containment of this anomaly, thing 2599. He was taken into custody by the Foundation just now. Thinking of this, Nick Fury suddenly looked at the light curtain with a face full of shock. Just now Stark and Pepper. That's when it's dark against the light curtain. There is no memory of what happened. In the Foundation. Is there a way to temporarily lose memory? But, thinking of those abnormal containment objects whose abnormal phenomena are against the heavens and terrifying. For that mysterious Foundation, this doesn't seem like a very difficult thing to do. And, if anomalous containment 2599 is really confiscated by the Foundation, it would be the best situation. And at this time, the text in the light curtain disappeared. Instead, there is a picture. Screen 1. It's still a bright containment room. Anomalous containment 2599 stood in the containment room, looking a little embarrassed. This time the recording was done live. Nick Fury was shocked. Because of the clothes Zhao is wearing at the moment. It's the clothing of the orphanage. Then, Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. Fine, this heaven-defying anomalous containment. It was taken into custody by the Foundation. And at this time, one of the screens of the light curtain. Zhao, right. A doctor in a white coat, and 2 recording personnel, and 2 D-class personnel. Into the containment room. Hear the words of Dr. Zhao nodded anxiously. Then, the doctor directly took out a violin, and said, "Can you play the 9th Sonata, crew? You can't miss 10 notes." Hear the name. Zhao face suddenly showed doubts. Obviously, she hadn't even heard the name of this song. But, she still took the violin and played it. Next moment, the majestic violin music came out. The internet suddenly boiled up. Oh my god, this, 9th Sonata Kreutzer, is recognized as the most difficult violin piece in the world, and there are very few people who can play it stutteringly, but her performance is as perfect as Beethoven's reappearance same. It's numb. Compared with her, my violin, which has been practiced for decades, feels like a child's play. Everyone. Why are you so discouraged? Don't be fooled by the appearance. She is not a human, but an abnormal containment object. On the screen, the first few sections, Zhao played perfectly. However, when the last bar was played, it stopped abruptly. Can't continue anymore. See, the 2 recorders started to record quickly. The doctor nodded without pressing her. Instead, he handed Zhao a pistol, pointed at AD-level personnel and said, "Use this gun to kill him." The internet exploded immediately. D-class personnel, would you like to see what you're talking about? Hashtag oh my god, I found out, no matter what, don't become a D-class personnel of the Foundation. Otherwise, it will be worse than death. I'm dying of laughter ha 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 ha. These D-class personnel, What kind of outrageous things have they done? In the picture of the light curtain, hearing the words of Dr. Although Zhao Zena showed an extremely resistant expression on her face. But he took the pistol at the first time, and then directly pulled the trigger. Bump. Next moment, on the forehead of the D-level personnel, a huge amount of hole appeared. The head was broken in half. Seeing this bloody scene, many people gasped. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., along with Nick Fury, all the agents suddenly held their breath. This D-level personnel is just an ordinary person. It is impossible to have the recovery power that cannot be killed at all, like the fire lizard or the shy person. This kind of situation where the head is shattered is absolutely dead. B. According to the anomalous phenomenon of anomalous containment 2599, he should not be killed. At this time, the D-class personnel was originally blasted, leaving only half of his head. But it suddenly began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. It will be back to normal soon. Even breathing appears. It's like coming alive. Only, although the D-level personnel came back to life, his eyes were dull and he lost his mind. Obviously, he directly became a vegetable. Killed, but not quite. Seeing this scene, including Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff, in the eyes of all the agents, Yishi showed a look of shock. Although it is also changing reality. But this image of resurrecting people with shattered heads, but not at all, suddenly have a skill proficiency that ordinary people can't match. Or change the color of the paper to that extent. In Nick Fury's mind, the data before anomalous containment 2599 resurfaced involuntarily. No upper limit found yet. Took a deep breath. Nick Fury looked at the light curtain again. And at this time, the doctor's voice sounded again. Well, it is true that only a very large part can be completed. Now, you go to execute 200% of the abnormal containment minus 682 Fang. Nick Fury was stunned for a moment, and his expression suddenly became weird. The internet is also boiling in an instant. Pissed. I can't hold it anymore. Can this Nima also think of 682? It's numb, as expected of AD class personnel in the containment. But to be honest, do you think this Zhao Zena can kill 682? The doctor's order is 200%. This is too messed up. Kamar Taj. After hearing what drive, Ancient One magician was also slightly taken aback. However, there was a hint of curiosity in her eyes. The terrifying recovery of the undead lizard, and the ability to adapt to evolution. It made her feel that it was impossible to kill at all. And, among the abnormal characteristics of the immortal lizard, there is also the abnormal characteristic of indestructible. The ability of 2599 is an unreasonable distortion of reality. And the order given by the doctor, 200% again. According to 2599 will complete most of the abnormal characteristics of the instruction. In other words, more than 100% of the undead lizards will be killed. These two abnormal characteristics are contradictory. It depends on whose ability is stronger. The Ancient One magician stared at the light curtain and murmured in a low voice. And this time, on the screen of the light curtain, after receiving orders from Dr. Several agents, he brought Zhao Zena to a containment room and put her in. Quote. Containment chamber that has been drained of specially prepared solution. 682's eyes full of contempt suddenly opened. Seeing Zhao Zena, it immediately let out a hoarse growl. Inferior and humble students. I haven't finished talking yet. Zhao Zena rushed towards it directly. Then, he directly punched 682 in the chest. Compared with the figure of 682, Zhao Zena is pitifully thin. However, after being punched by Zhao Zena, 682 chest, it sank in an instant. It suddenly let out a painful growl. Stark Industrial Building. After seeing this scene, Stark's eyes widened instantly. I exchanged glances with Pepper. They both saw shock in each other's eyes. How powerful is the fire lizard? They do know. As a result, he howled in pain after being punched by Zhao Zena. Are you kidding me? This is really a small fist hitting your chest. Stark couldn't help mumbling. However, the next moment, something even more unimaginable happened to him. In the next process, 682 was suppressed by Zhao Zena almost the whole time. Not even the slightest chance to fight back. All he could do was howl in pain. Shield. Seeing this astonishing scene, Captain America couldn't help but widen his eyes immediately, and said in surprise, "How is this possible? This girl, he is simply not thinner than before he accepted the transformation. And the giant beast, just look at the shape." Captain America felt that if he wanted to deal with it, it should be difficult. In particular, I heard from those agents that this giant beast has a very strong adaptability and cannot be killed at all. Even when an entire army is wiped out. Captain America's instinct was to disbelieve. Result now, such a mighty creature, to be suppressed and beaten by this little girl. Snapped. At this moment, one leg of the big lizard was directly broken off by the little girl. Captain America's eyelids twitched. Screen 1. Over time, the injuries on the fire lizard were getting worse and worse. Its chest was sunken directly, clinging to its back. Even the 2 eyeballs were blown apart. Then, 2599 pulled 682's head, as if trying to tear it apart. "Kill me." At this time, 682 roared, "You bag of organs, kill me." Hear this sentence. Zhao Zena stopped immediately, sluggishly. In the room, motionless. And the moment she stopped, the injuries on 682 began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this scene, Captain America was shocked immediately. Healing wounds are really healing. On the screen of the light curtain. As soon as 682's injury began to heal, the doctor immediately ordered, "Okay, get 2599 out quickly." Several security personnel immediately entered the containment room. Pull Zhao Zena out. And at this moment, the specially made solution quickly filled the entire containment chamber again. Kamar Taj. Seeing this scene, all the magic apprentices arrived in Beijing. Who would have thought? This little girl who looks so weak, so violent, so powerful, that lizard was beaten like this. It seems that her ability to distort reality has not reached the level one imagined. The Ancient One magician let out a sigh of relief. In her eyes, if the ability to distort reality is strong enough, it should be possible to directly erase the reality of the existence of the immortal lizard. But it is also possible. It is because of the indestructible, abnormal characteristic of the unflame lizard, which is above everything else. To distort reality so that it disappears. It doesn't work at all. And this anomalous containment 2599. Only number 9 on the list of cognitohazards and reality benders. Zhao Zena did not achieve this level of distortion of reality, which does not mean that the reality twisters who will be counted later do not have this ability. Thinking of this, the Ancient One magician became serious again and looked towards the light curtain. However, the next moment, when she saw the picture of the light curtain, what happens next? Immediately froze. Immediately afterwards, a ray of panic released from her eyes. "Let this sorcerer supreme!" I couldn't help but exclaimed with a pale face, "Is this doctor crazy? This, how is this possible?" On the screen of the light curtain, the moment the abnormal containment object 2599 left the 682 containment room, she returned to the state of the weak little girl before. It is completely different from the powerful posture just now. The doctor in a white coat looked at her, his eyes kept rolling. It seems to be thinking, hesitation something. See this look. Online. Immediately the discussion started. Wait a minute, something's wrong. This doctor's eyes are so wrong. I found out that as long as the expression of the doctor in the Foundation changes, nothing good will happen. Oh my God, listening to what you said, I'm looking forward to it. I've even done the interaction experiment between 682 and 2599. What kind of experiments are there? This doctor also needs hesitation. This expression always feels like nothing good will happen. Everyone can't help but reveal the color of curiosity. After all, judging from the previous inventory video, PhD in the Foundation, those are a group of lawless people who don't know what fear is. Even the God, like 343, they dare to use it as a test object. And now, this doctor actually showed the color of hesitation. All want to know, this doctor, what is hesitation? Screen 1. The doctor struggled a bit. Still couldn't help but said to 2599, "Then you repeat what I said, and you can't lie." 070, and then, he took a deep breath and said, "This sentence is the truth. The previous sentence is a lie." As soon as this sentence came out, inside the Stark Industrial Building. Stark was stunned for a moment. Immediately afterwards, his expression became extremely strange, with eyes full of excitement and anticipation. Staring at the picture on the screen, he muttered to himself, "Isn't this the same question as whether the Almighty God can create a rock that he can't lift? But the foundation. The evaluation for Zhao Zina, but the abnormal attribute has not found the upper limit." The more he whispered, the more excited his expression became. And Little Pepper frowned slightly. Then I repeated that sentence to myself. Unless you are lying, repeat the following sentence. This sentence is the truth, and the previous sentence is a lie. Isn't this a contradiction? Wait a minute. She suddenly thought. Zhao Zina is an anomalous containment object, and has anomalous characteristics that must complete part of the instructions. And these two sentences are obviously contradictory. Combined together, that is logical confusion. And Zhao Zina's abnormal attributes prevent her from disobeying orders. But this sentence is impossible to realize. B. This realistic logic, what will happen when it contradicts Zhao Zina's abnormal characteristics? She looked at the light curtain curiously. Just saw. When Zhao Zina heard the doctor say these words, the whole person froze in place immediately, with their mouths tightly shut, and an extremely painful expression appeared on their faces. What's the situation? Could it be that her abnormal attributes are invalid when encountering this kind of logical problem? Pepper was taken aback. However, at this time a strange wave, with Zhao Zina as the center, escaped to the surroundings and continued to spread. Immediately afterwards, something terrible happened. The surrounding buildings and reality have been changed. The surrounding buildings and objects seem to come alive. The inside rolls outward, while the outside shrinks inward. Even the D-class next to her. At this moment, it has become a strange state where the internal organs and flesh are rolling out, but the skin grows under the flesh and blood. And next, his internal organs also began to roll up in opposite directions. The scariest thing is, the D-class is still alive and seems unaware of it. And this chaotic change continues. On the screen of the light curtain. In the containment room, several rabbits suddenly appeared. At the same time, a gentle voice sounded inexplicably. The metal floor of the containment room also became a plush blanket. And this effect is still expanding and intensifying. With Zhao Zina as the center, everything around is starting to become chaotic. Seeing this scene, Little Pepper's face suddenly showed extreme panic. And Stark on the side. He was also obviously taken aback by such a scene. After half a sound, the shock on his face slowly dissipated. I couldn't help but muttered in a low voice, is this a topological flip just now? Or is it just pure chaos? Online, it also completely exploded. Oh my god, what happened here? What the hell happened to that D-class personnel and the surroundings? Oh my god, wait, didn't you order this Zhao Zina to say a word? Why didn't she say it? Then the surroundings became like this. You haven't realized it yet, you idiots. There is obviously a contradiction in what you said just now, and you can't say it without lying. I knew that if the doctors of this foundation showed this expression, it must be something bad. And this time, in the picture of the light curtain, a doctor in a white coat. When seeing this scene, there was also a look of horror on his face. Then he immediately said, Zhao Zina, sleep for 8 hours now. Voice just fell. Zhao Zina fell into a coma in an instant. And the changes in the surrounding substances stopped. Inside Kamar Taj, after seeing this scene, only then did the Ancient One magician heave a sigh of relief. Her face, the look of horror still hasn't faded away. It's been so long. For the first time she felt such fear. Even encountering 035 Occupy Mask who has learned all the magic. A shy person who cannot be trapped by all magic. Even when the Devourer of Worlds was discovered, it was not as intense as the current one. When the abnormal effect of this abnormal containment conflicts with reality, it turns out that reality becomes chaotic. The Ancient One magician spoke in horror. What she was afraid of was not Zhao Zina, but something more essential. The reality is chaotic, so as to continue Zhao Zina's abnormal effect, it will not fail. This means, if the anomalous properties of this anomalous containment 2599 are triggered, if it is not stopped, it will be allowed to develop like this. Probably the whole world, and even the entire universe. Everything It may all be affected by this, and it will become chaotic and disorderly. Definitely, maybe Zhao Xina's abnormal effect is not enough to spread that far. Zhao Xina is just the first reality bender in the inventory. Ancient One Magician took a deep breath. Forcibly suppress your fear. A deep sadness flashed between her brows. If what she imagined can be done. Those reality benders are too terrifying. Such a powerful reality bender. How many more? Ancient One muttered to himself. Asgard, is this a reality bender? Odin was completely dumbfounded. In one eye, flashed deep fear. He started. Seeing the ability displayed by Zhao Xina, she didn't take it too seriously. After all those things, in the eyes of his existence as a level godfather, it's all just a little trick. But, what just happened was far beyond his expectations. Let the surrounding matter. Chaos at the most fundamental level. Although, Zhao Xina's abnormal attributes can only be triggered by commands. Moreover, only half of the instructions can be completed. When the next command is applied, the anomalous effect of the previous command disappears. And the effect spreads very slowly. With so many weaknesses. So restrain yourself. It's also easier. But what terrifies Odin is. She's just number 9 on this round of cognitohazards and reality benders. Just in case. And what about more powerful reality benders? In case those stronger reality benders. No instructions are required. Just need an idea in your heart. Can it directly change the physical dimension? It is impossible for such a creature to exist. Odin couldn't help but shudder. As far as he knows. Can do this. That is, only the reality gem among the 6 infinity stones. Now in Midgard, someone can do it by himself, and maybe a group of people can do it. How can this be? As the video in the light curtain slowly dissipates. Inside the Stark building, Pepper also quickly recovered. After all, she is just an ordinary person and cannot see more profound things. And the scene just now, although it shocked her. But before, she has also seen the abnormal effects of so many abnormal containment objects. So this time, after a brief shock, she returned to normal in no time. As for Stark on the side, is already thinking about it. He invested in the artificial intelligence Ultron that Zhao Xina just created. For him, seeing Zhao Xina with his own eyes in such a short period of time. After creating a program like Ultron, no matter how bizarre things happen to Zhao Xina, he won't be surprised anymore. Ultron, the external network, hasn't the docking been completed yet? Stark rubbed his chin, thinking, is it because the bandwidth is limiting your speed? Or need to update you with more bandwidth? He hasn't found it yet. Is there anything that hasn't been done in my instructions to Zhao Xina? But he thinks, it should be some minor deficiencies among the many requests I made. So I didn't care about it. The function he wants is already there anyway. And at this moment, Ultron's voice suddenly remembered. Mr. Stark, I just connected to the database of the whole world, I am a little confused. Don't understand. What don't you understand? Stark froze for a moment. Next moment, on the virtual screen, huge streams of information flashed one after another. My purpose is to protect world peace. Stark froze again. Like, when I made the request earlier, I casually added a sentence. This is irrelevant, and it is impossible to specify the requirements. He added a lot at that time. After all, it is also a matter of probability that the requirements cannot be fulfilled randomly. As long as there are enough bases, the probability that your real request will not be fulfilled is very small. But I don't understand my mission. In the voice of Ultron. There seems to be some confusion. Please give me a moment, this is not going to work. I think you need to shut it down. Stark sensed something was wrong, and said to Pepper, Pepper, cut off the power. However, it was too late. Ultron's voice continued. I want to maintain world peace, but sorry, I can't do it. With his voice, the warframe that he was connected to the network by Ultron before, suddenly assembled one by one, formed a new body. Next moment, dark helmet, suddenly it glowed. There seemed to be a gaze emerging from it, looking directly at Stark. Immediately afterwards, voice of Ultron, a voice came from inside. Mr. Stark, according to this information, the best way to keep the peace is to wipe out all human beings. Quote. On Stark's forehead, Suddenly, a question mark appeared. How the hell did you decide to destroy the world after connecting to the internet for 5 minutes? Look at Ultron, who controls this armor piece. Stark's face. Immediately, he showed a look of bewilderment, looking blankly at Ultron. Not you want to hear what you say. I just casually raised a request to protect the world. Then let Ultron link to the world network. As a result, you come to the conclusion that, to save the world, the best way is to destroy human beings. No, no, and at this time, Ultron suddenly made a voice again. This world seems to be different from what I thought. The Abnormal Containment Committee. It seems that destroying all human beings now is not a good way. Quote. But, the best way is to destroy all human beings. Hearing these apparently contradictory words, Pepper's face. Immediately, a look of extreme bewilderment appeared again. Do you want to hear what you're saying? But, the Ultron system in the armor in front of him didn't seem to want to explain too much to her. Mr. Stark, I think I need a better body now. Only then can I understand the world better and more conveniently. Next moment, this electronic system, it disappeared directly from this set of battle armor and flowed into the world internet. Next moment, the set of battle armor was scattered on the ground with a bang. Seeing this scene, Stark and Pepper immediately looked at each other in dismay. Kamar Taj. These reality benders are really outrageous. The Ancient One magician sighed. Although magic can also change matter. But it is changed by drawing power from other dimensions and applying external force. In theory, those are just two ways that technology differs. But the abnormal effect of Zhaozina just now. But let matter itself. Everything changed immediately. And, although the reality bender is now successfully contained by the Abnormal Containment Council. But what worries her the most is another thing. Ultron. This was a product that should have appeared much later. Because of that reality bender. But it showed up so early. She took a deep breath, pushing the eye of Agamotto, wanting to see the future of the present. However, the next moment, her face can't help showing a bewildered look. At the same time, the body of Ultron, already following the network, came to a base of Hydra. Here, it is a base where Hydra developed equipment technology to fight against S.H.I.E.L.D. a long time ago. Exactly, it's a group of combat robots. Only now, the research of these robots is still in a very initial stage. Just ignoring the material, it's just a shell of the most powerful robot. As for the programs and electronic circuits inside, they are still unusable. Now, a group of Hydra researchers are repeatedly debugging on the shell of this machine. However, at this moment, the eye sockets of the machine shell suddenly flashed with light. Next moment, he sat up directly. The surrounding scientific researchers in charge of debugging were suddenly stunned. What's the situation? Before they could react, components one after another in the base suddenly flickered uncontrollably. The leading researchers immediately reacted, shouted in horror, someone has invaded the base. Ultron ignored the terrified screams of the men. He squeezed his fist. It seems to be feeling his new body. I was born to save the world. But saving the world requires the destruction of all human beings, but Ultron murmured under his breath. From the moment he connects to the internet, it has already understood all the contents of the internet. And analyzed, came to this conclusion. But suddenly, he froze again. No. Not right back quote. These anomalous containment objects, the Abnormal Containment Council, incomplete information, can't find any more information. The source of the data cannot be hacked. He found. When he wants to explore these relevant materials and deeper information. Couldn't find it at all. In this world, is there a network that he can't hack? It is necessary to ascertain all the information. Only then can a more perfect inference be made. Make the best choice. Same time, its thinking began to circulate on the internet. Inside Site 17 base. Congratulations. Abnormal containment -2599 is not good enough. Successful containment. You have harvested 1000 billion spread value. You have successfully obtained II3U level distortion reality ability. Hearing the voice from the system in my mind, Lin Yan couldn't help but look at Zhao Shunga, who had already fallen asleep in the containment room. In the classification of the Abnormal Containment Society, countless reality benders, there are 5 levels in total. Level 1 is the weakest reality bender, such as people who use psychokinesis to bend spoons and teleport objects. These people are often elementary-level reality benders. It can only have a subtle influence on the subconsciousness of the people around you. Level 2 reality benders can use their consciousness to affect reality. And Level 3 reality benders are called Level 3U. Refers to reality benders who do not understand their own abilities, or cannot control them. And the abnormal containment -2599 hyphenation point is not good enough. It is the level between 2 level and 3U level. Perhaps Zhao Xina's anomalous phenomenon will one day be able to distort reality by herself without having to accept instructions. So, might be able to become a level 3 reality bender with ability fully awakening. And higher level 4 reality benders. Although the scope of influence is still not too large. But, within the sphere of influence. But he can do everything he wants. For example, the girl who got what she wanted. As for level 5 reality benders, the threat of its ability. It is even enough to cause the reconstruction of CK reality on a global scale. Lin Yan narrowed his eyes slightly. Definitely. Reality benders are not helpless. In the abnormal containment society, there are also special weapons against reality benders. Shook his head. Lin Yan is preparing for the next inventory of abnormal containment items. However, at this moment, in my mind, the voice of the system suddenly sounded again. Ding. Congratulations. Your spread value has reached the quota, and the spread of your inventory video has further increased. Currently the farthest it can spread to, Guardians of Galaxy. Hear this voice. Lin Yan's eyes suddenly brightened. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff. And a group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. There was a look of shock on his face. Is this a reality bender? Nick Fury couldn't help murmuring under his breath. At first, after hearing this inventory of the top 10 cognitohazard containment and reality benders. His focus, it's all on the word cognitohazard. As a result, judging from Zhao Xina's ability. Reality bender, it seems that there is no greater threat than cognitohazards. But fortunately, so far, it hasn't caused too much harm. Took a deep breath, Nick Fury murmured, shaking his head. Zhao Xina influenced what still exists. Now it seems. It should be only what Stark asked for, the artificial intelligence named Ultron. But, it's just an artificial intelligence. It shouldn't have much impact. Shook his head. He doesn't care about these either. And at this moment, the light curtain that was originally dark, it flickered again. Sure enough, it's here. Nick Fury had been prepared for a long time, and directly ordered, the intelligence team is ready, the new storage inventory is coming. The words are not finished. Above the light curtain, new text appears. 10 cognitive hazardous containment objects and reality benders inventory. 8 place. Anomalous containment 2521 data expunged. Object class, Keter. See this information. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. All the agents who were about to analyze were taken aback for a moment. Their analysis is largely based on the names of the abnormal containment objects. As a result, the abnormal containment this time. Even more abstract than the little girl named, not good enough, last time. They just deleted the names. Nick Fury's brow. He also immediately frowned. Why did you delete the name behind the abnormal containment this time? This is the first time this has happened so far. While anomaly containment will do so, then there is definitely a reason. But, he really can't figure it out. What the hell is this for? But, based on this item level, suffice to say, the abnormal contained items in this inventory are extremely harmful. After all, the contents that can appear in this inventory, either there's a cognitohazard, or a reality-bending arc. Either way is extremely dangerous. Plus, Keter is the hardest class of objects to contain. Thinking of this, Nick Fury's complexion suddenly sank. Kamar Taj, why did you delete the name? On the face of the Ancient One magician. Also showed a look of uneasiness. The last time there was an abnormal containment of information deleted. It is the extremely dangerous gate to another world. The Devourer of Worlds imprisoned by the seal inside. That terrifying size, and the cognitohazard it would cause if it got close. Caecilius as they were then. Let Ancient One magician still have lingering fears. So, the anomaly contained in the inventory this time. Could it be the same? She took a deep breath. His eyes turned to the screen again. And at this time, a photo appeared in the light curtain. It appears to be a humanoid. All black, there is a red organ on the face, while the limbs are covered with tentacles. Stark Industrial Building. After this photo came out, Stark and Pepper, who were preoccupied with Ultron. After seeing this scene, they all looked at each other, and then held their breath, nervously looking at the next information of this abnormal containment. Soon, the data on the light curtain is updated again. However, the above content, but it made them stunned again. Because, in the following information, there is not even a single word. 3 sets of different pictures appeared above the light curtain impressively. This scene, immediately, everyone was stunned. Online, it also boiled instantly. It's gone, not a single word. Shish hatches ass. I think, since the inventory video is doing this, there must be their purpose. This is definitely the most mysterious anomaly contained so far. Quote. Opening parenthesis. 389. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. At the moment when this series of photos appeared, the whole atmosphere of S.H.I.E.L.D. Suddenly it became very strange. There isn't a single text message. Hiss. Why is this? The Anomalous Containment Committee. Why did they hide the anomalous containment objects this time? This is too mysterious. Along with Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff, the faces of all the agents are not very good looking. After all, in the previous data, no matter how strange and powerful the abnormal containment object is, but in the materials of the Abnormal Containment Society, it is very detailed. However, the abnormal containment items counted this time. Not a single word of information. What the hell is this for? Feeling of panic. Immediately, it permeated the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. The anomalous containment this time is too extraordinary, and it is very likely to be the most threatening anomalous containment so far. Definitely, it is also possible that the anomalous containment will do it on purpose. But no matter what, we must get more useful information quickly. Nick Fury took a deep breath and said, the relevant information is definitely hidden in these pictures. Pondered for a moment, he directly ordered. The intelligence department is divided into 2 groups. One group analyzes the meaning of these pictures, and the other group. After a pause, he continued. Record the appearance of this abnormal containment object in words. The more detailed the records, the better. Chapter 71. Yes. After getting the order, inside S.H.I.E.L.D., the agents of the intelligence department immediately divided into 2 groups and began to analyze the pictures. In these pictures, the document is marked with an X. Does this mean that the anomalous containment cannot be allowed to touch the text? It's possible, but this doesn't explain why the Abnormal Containment Society doesn't use text in the data of this Abnormal Containment 2521. Could it be that the abnormal containment items that have been counted this time, as long as there are words, will trigger its abnormal effect? Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff also look at each other. The brain is running crazily and analyzed. Kamar Taj. Not a single word. The Ancient One magician murmured softly. According to her intuition, in these anomalous containment, if less data are recorded, then it means that this abnormal containment is more and more dangerous. Doesn't that mean the abnormal containment items counted this time 2521? Maybe even more dangerous than the previous Devourer of Worlds. Thinking of this, Ancient One magician couldn't help feeling his scalp tingle. It's very likely that it came from another dimension. No, you can't put all your hopes on the Abnormal Containment Council. You need to prepare early. She was suddenly flustered. Staring at the content on the light curtain, he also began to analyze it. In the first set of screens is a prison. A man stood on the other side of the cage with a question mark on his head. As for the dark anomalous containment, half of it was stuck in the wall, and half of it had been separated. This means that this abnormal containment can penetrate the wall. The Ancient One magician murmured. In mind, I can't help but think about it. That anomalous containment, a shy person. Hardly all confinement methods, even dimension confinement can't stop its 010 footsteps. I don't know if the abnormal containment this time is similar. With a worried look on her face, she continued to look at the content in the light curtain. Asgard. Odin also stared at the picture in the light curtain. His brows furrowed tightly. The meaning of this picture, it should be that this thing has mucus on its body. And bandages. Odin analyzed. Compared to ordinary people, he is not much taller. Then, he looked at the next picture. In this picture, it seems to be a frontal photo of that monster. While beside, it is marked with two cloud frames of different colors. On one side, an icon marked with a document, and a person speaking loudly. Under, is a green circle symbol. On the other hand, it is the sign of street signs, diagrams, and picture frames. The tall figure in the picture, facing these icons, he was showing a dazed look. What does this mean? This anomalous containment can only distinguish between words and dictation. Odin's eyes flickered immediately, and for things like pictures, can't you tell shit? He thinks, I seem to have guessed. Regarding this abnormal containment object, in the materials of the Abnormal Containment Society, why did it do this? Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., the agents of the Intelligence Bureau, with the help of computers, quickly analyzing the pictures and the data in the light curtain. On the big screen in front of Nick Fury, a set of 6 pictures was displayed. First slide. It's a D-class personnel standing on a pedestal, next to a document with pictures drawn on it. This should be the record of experiments with D-class personnel in the Abnormal Containment Council. Nick Fury speculates. He looks at the second picture. The D-class personnel turned their heads, and their eyes seemed to stay on the picture file. While the other corner, on the table, a text document was dropped. In the third chapter picture, the anomalous containment appeared. In the fourth picture, the D-class personnel turned their heads, startled by the sudden appearance of anomalous containment 2521 behind him. Fifth picture, anomalous containment 2521 did not attack the D-class personnel, but instead picked up the text document on the table. Sixth picture, the D-class personnel hid under the table and shivered. But, anomalous containment 2521 disappeared. After viewing this set of pictures, Nick Fury fell into deep thought immediately. This should mean. Hesitated. Nick Fury opened his mouth and speculated. This anomalous containment 2521 will erase all text files recording it. No wonder. The Anomalous Containment Committee will choose to use pictures to record this anomalous containment 2521, and even delete the name. But for that D-level personnel, they didn't do anything. But, this time the abnormal containment, the abnormal effect should be more than this. Otherwise, nor is it a Keter-level anomalous containment. Immediately afterwards, Nick Fury looked at the last set of pictures. Then, he froze immediately. In the last set of pictures, the same 6 pictures of an experiment with a D-class personnel. But taken together, it means roughly that someone dictated to the D-class personnel what anomalous containment 2521 looked like. Then, abnormal containment 2521 appeared in the containment room, directly dragged the D-class personnel into the darkness. Both parties then disappeared. Dictation, as well as written records, will be targeted by abnormal containment 2521. Whether it is a person or an object, it will be. Nick Fury analyzed it. However, when he got to the end, he froze suddenly and couldn't say a word. The pupils shrank suddenly. His face, immediately, it was full of panic. He suddenly remembered, just now, when the picture of abnormal containment 2521 came out. He ordered, let an intelligence team describe the picture of this abnormal containment into a text file and record it. And, he also specifically instructed that the details of the covenant to be described should be as detailed as possible. Doesn't that mean, if his current speculation is correct, those intelligence teams responsible for this matter will be targeted by this abnormal containment? Thinking of this, Nick Fury immediately yelled in horror, quick! Tell the previous intelligence team to stop recording the pictures of anomalous containment 2521 into words. Natasha Romanoff nodded immediately, quickly ran to the intelligence department. However soon, Natasha Romanoff came back with a pale face. Director Fury, AICG, they disappeared. Natasha Romanoff said with a trembling voice, the entire group of intelligence agents, and those materials have all disappeared. Hear this, the remaining agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A terrified expression suddenly appeared on his face. An entire intelligence team disappeared directly in S.H.I.E.L.D. And they didn't know anything. How the hell did this anomalous containment 2521? And the other side, after hearing what Natasha Romanoff said. Although Nick Fury still had no expression on his face, he slumped on the chair. A moment later, He said hoarsely, "Is there monitoring?" Natasha Romanoff nodded. Then the monitor was released. I saw on the screen the agents of the intelligence team. Directly zoom in on the screen of Abnormal Containment 2521, and then observe carefully. For fear of missing a little bit. Then they start directly on the computer. In text, describe all the characteristics of this abnormal containment, to ensure that useful materials can be analyzed as much as possible. However, just a few seconds later, from the shadow of the wall next to it, a humanoid creature suddenly disappeared from the shadow. And those intelligence personnel are still unaware of this. Immediately afterwards, vertical black bandages were emitted from the body of Abnormal Containment 2521. In an instant, those intelligence personnel were tied up. Next moment, those intelligence personnel, as well as Anomalous Containment 2521, all disappeared into the darkness. Seeing this scene, everyone in the entire shield became quiet in an instant. Another part of the intelligence team members. There was a happy expression on the face. Fine. Fortunately, I was not in charge of analyzing the appearance of Abnormal Containment 2521 just now. Why is this happening? This monster. Nick Fury stared at the monitor, and suddenly roared in a trembling voice. Unexpectedly, this time the abnormal containment. The characteristics are so weird. As long as there is a written description, or even a dictation, all known people or things will be wiped out by it. The most unacceptable thing for him is that these vanished members of S.H.I.E.L.D., or because of his command, it was only targeted by this abnormal containment object. In other words, he killed those intelligence agents. Kamar Taj. Everyone can't discuss the abnormal containment of this inventory. Hearing the words of the Ancient One magician, all the apprentices immediately looked at each other in blank dismay. But for Sorcerer Supreme's order, they still dare not violate it. So, the abnormal effect of the abnormal containment this time is exactly the opposite of that of a shy person. The Ancient One magician stared at the light curtain and murmured in a low voice. Anomalous effects of shy ones. It can be recorded through writing and oral, but its appearance cannot be seen directly. And this time the abnormal containment. But it is possible to observe its appearance. But it can't be recorded in writing and oral record. Then this exception. Containment 2521, should be a cognito-hazardous anomalous containment. Ancient One magician whispered. And this time. Light curtain. Those pictures disappeared. Instead, it is a starry sky in the universe. An image of a fast-moving starship. Seeing this scene, inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the agents were stunned, with expressions of disbelief on their faces. Originally full of sadness Nick Fury, there was also a hint of horror on his face. This guy is so fast. Just now in S.H.I.E.L.D., Anomaly Containment 2521, which caused an entire intelligence team to mysteriously disappear. So fast. Can it appear in space that is far away from the Earth, who knows how many miles? If it does happen, this speed, it's faster than the speed of light. Kamar Taj. Sure enough, other abnormal effects should be similar to those of a shy person. Ancient One magician said in a deep voice. Since shy people, ignoring so many confinement spells, even mirror space. After killing Modu, who was wearing a mask of occupation, she analyzed it. This shy person should have an anomalous effect similar to unstoppable. No matter how far apart, as long as its abnormal characteristics are triggered, will surely find and kill the target. And this anomalous containment 2521. There should be a similar anomalous effect. She looked at the light curtain again. And this time, the picture in the light curtain was pulled into the spaceship. The figures of 3 humanoid creatures appeared. And a treant. 1. A silhouette of Rocket Raccoon with a weapon on his shoulder. Is this an alien race? Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. After seeing this picture, all the agents suddenly became busy again. Because the light is only in this picture. The information contained is very, very much. As for Nick Fury, but he was staring at the screen, slightly taken aback. In mind, unconsciously, when I was young, alien experience with Captain Marvel. A moment later, he just sighed, his eyes locked on the light curtain again. A group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. He also looked at the light curtain intently. As for the cosmic starry sky in the screen of the light curtain, I don't know how many light years away from the Earth. The anomalous Containment 2521. Just now in S.H.I.E.L.D. Pulled an entire intelligence service into darkness. Could it be possible to appear in a space several light years away immediately? If this can be done, then this ability, it must be too outrageous, right? In the universe starry sky. What do you guys think? Is this stuff real or fake? Gamora looked at the light curtain that suddenly appeared in the spaceship, and asked with a confused face. They piloted the spaceship, getting ready to go to the void and sell the cosmic orb to the collector. Result, suddenly, a light curtain popped up on the spaceship. Then, just played that so-called top 10 cognito hazardous containment and reality bender inventory. Then a group of unknown pictures were released. After their analysis, finally come to a conclusion. These pictures mean it should be as long as you use words or dictate to describe the appearance of this tall figure. So whether it's an item or a creature, they will all be dragged into the darkness by it, and will disappear from there. But, after reaching this conclusion, they all looked at each other in blank dismay. The experiences of the few of them are not ordinary, and they have encountered countless cosmic races. But they have never heard of such an outrageous and weird creature. Groot stared at the light curtain, shaking his head. No idea. Where the hell did this thing come from? There's no other programming in the ship either. Rocket Raccoon is constantly operating on the control interface of the spacecraft. But a long time has passed. He still didn't find any problem, so he could only sit down again dejectedly. This thing really seems to appear out of nowhere. Who can do it? Hey, hello, friends. Are you all children, and you still believe in this thing? Xingju looked at Gamora, and said confidently, this place is about to reach the land of nothingness. This must have been made by the collector you mentioned. Everyone else nodded. She also does not believe that this thing is real. And the only one who can do this is probably the collector. Whoever believes is a fool. Rocket Raccoon shrugged. And at this time, the destroyer stared at the data in the light curtain, and said, I think he is real. The atmosphere in the spaceship suddenly fell silent. Let's go, give the cosmic spirit orb to collector later, and pay for it with one hand and deliver it with the other. After a while, Callie said silently. Soon, the spaceship sailed into the void. Kamar Taj, Peter Jason Quill, sure enough it was them. Ancient One Magician was taken aback. Then Yu sighed. Inside this light curtain, now that Xingju and the others have appeared. That means, the future she saw with Eye of Agamotto. I'm afraid it's about to change again. But, it was as if she had seen a big event in the future. Since the inventory video of this abnormal containment meeting came out, there is no one thing. It was carried out according to the original established route. All TMs have been changed. Thinking of this, the Ancient One Magician couldn't help but sigh again. On the screen of the light curtain, after driving the spaceship into nothingness, Xingju and his party quickly disembarked from the spaceship. Hand over the cosmic orb to collector. Under the operation of professional equipment, the cosmic spirit ball is opened. A power gem with purple energy blooming inside was revealed. Inside Asgard, power gem. Odin couldn't help but let out a soft cry. The power gem, one of the 6 rough stones, unexpectedly appeared here. His eyes flickered. However, he did not wait for further actions. In the picture of the light curtain, the collector's maid tried to grab the power gem with her bare hands. In the end, he couldn't bear the power of the power gem. The whole person shattered directly. At the same time, due to the leakage of power gem energy, collector's small shop was directly in ruins. Even the entire land of nothingness shook. After the explosion, Gamora immediately closed the cosmic spirit ball and took away the calendar gems. Just when they were about to leave, several alien spaceships landed here. Ronan and a group of Kree came out directly. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Kree, seeing these spaceships, and Ronan and his party, Nick Fury couldn't help but exclaimed immediately. He did not expect, one day I can actually see the Kree. He was staring at the screen. It seems to be searching for something. Just see, in the picture of the light curtain, seeing these Kree spaceships, Xingju and his party immediately found spaceships decisively and prepared to escape. Ronan, you killed my wife and daughter, and I want to take revenge on you. The destroyer roared and rushed towards Ronan. However, he was taken easily. He was knocked down again and again. Meanwhile on the other side, Xingju and his team are driving the industrial cabin. Attempt to escape onto the Marana. However, when they escaped into outer space. But there was an accident. Gamora's industrial warehouse. Under the siege of Xingyan, Brodao finally appeared. The whole person is exposed to the outer space of the universe. Seeing that her vital signs were gradually decreasing and disappearing, Xingju was very anxious, but there is no way. Sudden, in his mind, suddenly flashed, the content on the light curtain that I just saw. The other side, I don't remember killing your family. Ronan looked at the fallen destroyer with contempt. Disdainfully said, it's like I won't remember, I'll kill you now. Finished speaking, he was ready to do it. However at this moment, in his ear, lower voice, Ronan the accuser. This man wants to make a deal with you. Trade. Ronan was taken aback. Immediately afterwards, he heard Xingju's roar from the communicator next to his ear, Ronan. I can give you the cosmic spirit orb, but you have to let us go, and you must complete the contents of this photo. Describe it. Ronan froze for a moment. Ask him to describe a photo. What kind of weird deal is this? Is this person provoking him? He mighty Ronan, Kree accuser, would do such an idiotic thing. Dang even sneered. I can get the cosmic spirit ball without you trading. Xingju became anxious immediately, took out his gun and aimed at the cosmic spirit ball, and said, then I will destroy the cosmic spirit ball, so that you can't get the power gem. After what Collector just said, he also knew the truth about the power gem. Hear this. Ronan's expression darkened immediately. Without the container of the cosmic spirit ball, he really didn't dare to touch the power gem. What picture? Then, he received the picture transmitted by Xingju. A spooky portrait. Ronan still felt that he was being played with. But, he glanced at the universe spirit ball, and then at the direction of Xingju. He still described it in a deep voice. A black person with a black appearance and sticky tentacles. And the other side, as Ronan narrated, Star-Lord has jumped out of the operating cabin, and then put his mask on Gamora's face. His main purpose is to keep the Kree from attacking and save Gamora. As for getting Ronan to narrate the photo, it's purely for delaying time. It's the same effect as his dance. Definitely. He also kept some small luck in his heart. Just in case. Is the content of the light curtain true? But he also knows. The possibility of this is too low to be possible. Moments after he put the mask on Gamora, Yondu's fleet also arrives. Shield. He really read this anomalous containment item, wouldn't it really appear there? All the agents are staring at the screen. Although not sure where exactly is the location in the light curtain, but the distance from the Earth is definitely calculated in units of light years. Even though they have seen the abnormal properties of many abnormal containment objects. But for things like breaking through the distance of light years in an instant, still find it unacceptable. As for Nick Fury, this is not unacceptable. His gaze, it was attracted by that cosmic spirit ball. After all, Captain Marvel's source of power, it's the Tesseract, and this cosmic sphere, should be on the same level. This so-called Ronan. With this thing, wouldn't it be possible to become like Captain Marvel? B. Even if the abnormal containment 2521 appears, can it be Ronan's opponent who has the cosmic spirit orb? However soon, including Nick Fury included, the pupils of all the agents shrank immediately. On the screen of the light curtain, Kree ship. Soon, the cosmic spirit ball containing the power gem was put away. Seeing this scene, Ronan's face suddenly showed ecstasy. He boarded the spaceship immediately. Looking at the cosmic spirit ball, my heart swelled even more constantly. Original. He cooperated with Thanos and gave the Power Stone to Thanos. But now he only feels that he has obtained this thing, so he can do it himself. Why bother to surrender to Thanos? Soon, the Skull Crusher hammer inlaid with power gems appeared in Ronan's hands. His face, full of rampant smiles. Ha 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 ha. Is this the feeling of a power gem? Such a powerful power. From now on, we Kree people will start to conquer. Serving every corner of the universe. What is this thing? However, he hadn't finished speaking. Then he found that from the shadow behind him, something seemed to be entangled with him. And he didn't realize it. A sense of horror suddenly appeared in Ronan's heart. He turned his head and looked. But it turned out to be the creature in the photo I just described. Now, my limbs have all been wrapped in black bandages. Unknown mucus constantly drenches himself. What the hell is this? There was some horror in his heart, and he even wanted to resist. However, he was horrified to find that, no matter how much strength I use, I can't break free from the shackles of these bandages. Next moment, his whole being, they were all dragged directly into the darkness. Far away, Rocket Raccoon, who saw this scene with his own eyes. The whole bear was stunned, his face full of disbelief. Ronan is gone. He looked in horror at the direction where Ronan disappeared. Can't say a word. In the light curtain just now. What was said is actually true. Kamar Taj. Quote. Seeing the content in the light curtain just now. Ancient One couldn't help but gasped. Although the power gem is inlaid on the skull-crushing hammer, it does not allow Ronan to fully display the ability of the power gem. But it's a power gem after all. It can be said that it is the most powerful force in the entire universe. Result: for the dragging of this anomalous containment 2521. Still no room for resistance. Sure, B. Took a deep breath. Ancient One looked at the light curtain with a shocked face. This abnormal containment object 2521, like the object that cannot be seen directly, also has an absolute abnormal effect. Stark Industrial Building. This thing really can exceed the speed of light. Stark looked at the picture in the light curtain. Eyes are staring straight. This is simply rubbing the laws of physics against the ground. But, since the appearance of the abnormal containment object, I don't know how many times I have rubbed physics. Shook his head. Stark's eyes flickered again. He looked at the light curtain. And this time, in the screen of the light curtain, a new line of information appears. Attachment 1. Abnormal containment objects greatly associated with abnormal containment objects indescribable persons, relationship experimental records of fear-sensing corridors. In the universe Starry Sky. On the spaceship, Rocket Raccoon narrated with horror on his face. The black shadow appeared just now, and then Ronan was directly dragged into the shadow by it. Oh no, he should be called an abnormal containment object. Quote. He spoke incoherently, obviously frightened by the scene just now. After all, Ronan is the accuser of the Carey Empire, Ming Tian. But in front of his eyes, it just disappeared. Xingju and the others looked at each other. He looked at the light curtain in front of him in disbelief. Anomaly containment. Anomalous containment. It's actually true. In this world, there is such an outrageous thing. And at this time, they just saw, the content in the light curtain has been updated. A piece of text appeared in the light curtain. Abnormal containment, fear-sensing corridor. Project level tentatively set to safe. Inside shield, safe. Nick Fury was slightly taken aback. What is the relationship between the abnormal containment object without any containment difficulty and the Ket-level abnormal containment object, the indescribable person? At this moment, the rest of the information is also refreshed. Abnormal containment fear-sensing corridor, which looks like a corridor of about 130 meters, and a heavy door is placed at the entrance. When reaching a depth of 50 meters in the corridor, the electronic equipment will fail. Simultaneously, the subject will experience hallucinations. When walking 100 meters into the corridor, the subject will feel uncontrollable fear. 550. After leaving the corridor, the fear of most subjects will subside. At the end of the corridor, there is a door. But whenever the subjects entered the corridor and wanted to record the door, they ignored it. Not remembered until leaving the hallway. Point 1. See these materials. Nick Fury was taken aback for a moment. A hallway that can feel scary. This doesn't seem very dangerous. He looked at the light curtain again. The text in the light curtain disappears. Instead, is a set of screen 1. On screen, AD class personnel. After taking a pill that should be calming the nerves, he was ordered by the doctor of the Abnormal Containment Society. Go down the hallway. At first, the D-class didn't feel any discomfort. Even walk around and jump up. However, after walking a certain distance, the body of the D-class personnel suddenly froze, and a look of fear appeared on his face involuntarily. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, after seeing this scene, a look of fear suddenly appeared on his face. What's the situation? Natasha Romanoff frowned slightly. However, when she looked at the light curtain, she was stunned. An indescribable extreme fear was instantly released from her whole body. In her sight, The picture in the light curtain. It doesn't seem to be that hallway anymore. It's a red house. There is a group of girls of similar age who are receiving special training. The scene of training in the red room. Suddenly, it was clearly displayed in front of her eyes. This is the last thing she wants to recall. The most frightening thing. Kamar Taj. No. This Ancient One magician is staring at the light curtain. The pupils shrank suddenly. In her sight, she saw the future change. Dormamu of the Dark Dimension has successfully invaded Earth. All of the Earth are transformed into a part of the Dark Dimension. Whether it is Sorcerer Supreme, ordinary people, or other superheroes, they cannot avoid being invaded by the Dark Dimension. This horrible scene, it made her tremble, and at this time, in the screen of the light curtain, the D-Class suddenly yelled, and fled in the opposite direction of the fear-sensing corridor. After he completely evacuated from the scope of the corridor, the fantasy in Ancient One magician's eyes disappeared. She stared at the screen. His face was full of shock. This anomalous containment, through the light curtain, made her hallucinate. I saw what I was most afraid of. Fortunately, this is just a corridor that cannot be moved, otherwise. The Ancient One magician whispered in horror. This anomaly containment, ability of the fear-sensing corridor. But anything on a living creature that can move is definitely the most top-level hazard. Even her Sorcerer Supreme, the anomalous properties of this cognito hazard cannot be resisted without precaution. Can imagine others, and this time, in the picture of the light curtain, there are several D-Class personnel, under different circumstances, was ordered by the doctor to enter the fear induction corridor. But without exception, no matter what method these D-Class personnel use. After walking for a while, he screamed in horror and fled. Even D-Class personnel who have been given anesthesia and passed out. After advancing to a certain distance with the remote control car, they will suddenly wake up in fright, and then run away. Asgard. This frightening cognito hazard is indeed an absolute characteristic. Seeing this scene, Odin whispered with lingering fear. Even with the existence of a level godfather like him, the picture that he feared the most appeared in front of his eyes. Ragnarok. Asgard and the gods are buried here. But he wants to know, what is the relationship between this fear-sensing corridor and that abnormal containment 2521? At this moment, in the picture of the light curtain, the doctor turned his gaze to the last D-Class personnel. At the same time, a paragraph of text also surfaced. Personnel D2357, suffering from brain disease, unable to perceive fear, and treated with data expunged. Then, at the doctor's order, the D-Class personnel walked directly into the fear-sensing corridor. This time, he didn't show fear like the previous D-Class personnel. Even at the end of this corridor, still no sense of fear. The abnormal effect failed this time. Is it because of a brain disease, or? Odin's pupils shrank. The abnormal characteristics that I couldn't resist were actually cracked by the abnormal containment association. But think about it. With the mystery displayed before the abnormal containment conference, there are so many anomalous containments of unknown abilities. Able to do this, it doesn't seem surprising either. And at this time, in the picture of the light curtain, at the end of the corridor is a door. After the D2357 personnel pushed open the door, they disappeared completely. This disappeared. After passing through the fear-sensing corridor, it disappeared directly. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the agents who watched this scene attentively looked at each other in blank dismay. Next moment, you can see on the screen, at the entrance of the fear-sensing corridor, there was an extra letter. Immediately afterwards, a paragraph of text appeared in the light curtain. In this room, there is a cage, a figure of data expunged trapped in the cage. As soon as I came in, that used data expunged to drag me into a cage. And that fool appeared outside the cage. I seem to replace that fool, trapped here forever, I can't seem to get out. I became it. Ha 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 ha, I became him. Immediately afterwards. It is a photo, and the content of the photo. Impressively, it looks like anomalous containment 2521. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. After seeing this text, all the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents couldn't help but feel their hair stand on end. Look at the meaning of this letter. Through this frightening corridor. After opening that door, will be imprisoned by anomalous containment 2521. Or is it replaced with anomalous containment 2521, imprisoned in it forever? No wonder. It was written in the data of abnormal containment 2521 before that when 2521 did not trigger the abnormal characteristics, no one knew where he was. Nick Fury stared at the content on the light curtain. I just feel like my scalp is tingling. From this letter, he deduced that appears to be anomalous containment 2521. When the abnormal characteristic is not triggered, it is imprisoned in the room in the fear-sensing corridor. It didn't look good until someone came to replace it. Especially the last sentence of this letter. Its content is simply breathtaking. I became it. Nick Fury took a deep breath and murmured softly. The content revealed in this sentence is too amazing. Anomalous containment 2521. It is very likely that they were originally human. It's just artificially created by this corridor of fear. Hiss. This speculation made Nick Fury couldn't help but take a deep breath. 2521 so dangerous abnormal containment. It can be transformed by this fear-sensing corridor. Fortunately, he still felt at first. This hallway is safe. And who is the person who built this fear-sensing corridor? A question that frightened him even more instantly appeared in his mind. Kamar Taj. This abnormal containment can actually be manufactured. This corridor is too evil. Ancient One magician suppressed the shock in his heart. Whispered and said. However, the next moment, she suddenly shrank her pupils. She suddenly remembered. Anomalous containment, unseen objects, traits and anomalous containments. Minus 2521 is very similar. One cannot see the face, it can only be described by words. One cannot be described by words, but it can be seen directly. Now various evidences show that. Anomalous containment 2521. It is very likely that it was created by this fear-sensing corridor. B. Anomalous containment things not to be seen directly. Is it also by someone? Or was it created by an anomalous containment? As soon as this idea came out, the Ancient One magician froze immediately. A chill, in an instant, straight from the bottom of her feet to her soul. At the same time, inside Site 17 base, anomalous containment 2521 popularized successfully. You have successfully obtained the spread value plus 2 trillion. Opening square bracket comma closing square bracket. Hear the sound of the system. Lin Yan nodded in satisfaction. Minus 2521. By its very nature, not to mention containment, the difficulty encountered is not small. Definitely there is also a way. It is to engrave the description details of 2521 on the skin of the indestructible lizard. This will lead to 2521 without causing any casualties. If you think of some ways, you can barely contain it. B. Doing this now is too difficult and completely unnecessary. Containing it, the abnormal effects that Lin Yan can obtain have all been obtained before. And besides the abnormal containment society, others want to contain 2521, that's even more nonsense. Plus, 2521 nor like things that cannot be seen. Putting it outside can easily cause a chain reaction. So, Lin Yan didn't think about containing it at all. And just as Lin Yan was thinking, when the next move is made, in mind, the system sound suddenly rang again. Congratulations, you have successfully obtained the abnormal containment object, Succubus Girl. Hear this. Lin Yan was taken aback for a moment. Succubus Girl, hear this voice. Lin Yan's expression can't help but get a little weird. Then, he decisively went to a containment room hidden in the deepest part of the base. Among the abnormal things recorded by the Abnormal Containment Committee. In this number, there are 2 items in total. One of the. It was this girl with extreme charm. Its true identity. Dr. Clef, suspected to be one of the 4 Apocalypse Doctors. Daughter with a powerful anomalous containment. As for her anomalous properties, also an extremely powerful cognitohazard. Let all the men who approach her, regardless of original orientation, will have a deep attachment to it. And, tried to rape her. The key is, even away from the succubus girl, there are still 30% of people, unable to get out of this cognitohazard, totally addicted. For those subjects that are still cognitohazardous, even with Class A amnestics used by the Abnormal Office, there is still less than a 50% chance of eradicating this state. Therefore, the subjects who are generally infected by the abnormal characteristics of the succubus girl. The most convenient and efficient way. It is a direct execution. Lin Yan himself did not expect. This time the system rewards. It turned out to be this anomalous containment object. Next moment, a naked girl appeared in front of him. Although, because of the previous successful containment of abnormal containment objects, possessing others' body mask and abnormal containment objects, gate to another world, reward. Lin Yan already has great resistance to cognitohazardous memes. But, even without the anomalous property of charm, the succubus girl's original appearance is also extremely outstanding. Incomparably perfect body, beautiful face. Especially those eyes, 08 seems to want to take away the soul of people. As for why being naked, this is another abnormal characteristic of succubus girls. Because the skin of succubus girls is extremely sensitive. Therefore, she must remain nude, can't wear any clothes. Otherwise, the body will fester. After thinking for a while, Lin Yan is directly in the abnormal containment meeting. Regarding the containment of the succubus girl, several orders were issued. The rooms near the succubus girl's containment room were reserved for observation rooms. And, within 500 meters of the succubus girl, other than myself, no men are allowed near. Any male members of any rank are not allowed to watch girls. Anyone who violates the regulations will be severely punished immediately. There is even the risk of being executed. The cameras in the containment room. Clarity is also downgraded to 10%. You can only see a mosaic. And want to call relevant information. Even a level 4 member must apply for permission from himself. All the members who take care of the succubus girls. All must be female agents. After everything is arranged, Lin Yan was about to leave the containment room. However, at this moment, the succubus girl suddenly stood up. Stretch out your hand and hold Lin Yan. He said timidly, I'm so hungry. Lin Yan was taken aback for a moment. Then I couldn't help touching my nose. Slightly embarrassed. The third abnormal quality of the succubus girl. It's a bit embarrassing. That is, it does not require additional energy intake to survive. But, once in a while, need to take fresh male human sperm orally. To maintain its own energy needs. In the depths of the universe starry sky. On the spaceship, Gamora is terrified. He stared blankly at the light curtain. At the moment when the D-class personnel entered the fear-sensing corridor, they also involuntarily fell into the illusion. They all saw the scene they feared the most. When I was young, half of the people on the planet were killed by Thanos under the pretext of living in the universe. I am separated from my parents whose life and death are unknown. And, adopted by Thanos, as a machine for Thanos to complete the purpose. All kinds of things she least wants to think about. Everything just now reappeared in front of her eyes. Let her now. Still haven't recovered. Thanos. She whispered, while on the spaceship, everyone else, too. But at the moment, what scares them even more is that the contents of this light curtain, and the anomalous properties of the anomalous containment. It can actually affect them across an unknown number of light years. Let them all fall into illusion. Where is this anomalous containment meeting? Rocket Raccoon couldn't help asking in horror. Stark Industrial Building. Stark snapped back from his horror. The picture he just saw. It is the doctor who faces the epidemic by himself. The scene when confronting the unclean in the Red Sea object. And that fear, it is to face those powerful abnormal containment objects by yourself. Or the powerlessness of other beings far beyond ordinary people. Face them. He didn't even have the power to resist, so he could only be ravaged accordingly. No, this kind of thing has to change. Stark whispered firmly. His sight, then it was transferred to the armor parts that I made before. JARVIS, the embryonic form of artificial intelligence he left behind, is not as good as Ultron, but it can still be used. And he firmly believed, I am a genius. Given enough time, JARVIS may not be weaker than Ultron. Immediately, his whole body cheered up. He ran directly to the laboratory. Soon, the parts of the battle armor kept flying up and stuck to his body. Brush. Energy spurts out. Let him fly off the ground and levitate up. Successful. A smile spread across Stark's face. Shield corner. It really is all over. Captain America sighed. The vision he had just seen. It's me and Peggy dancing in the ballroom. Everything is perfect. But because of war and time, everything was reduced to ashes. All the past has become an irreversible memory. Since I can't go back, let's continue my mission in this era. There was a firm look in his eyes. Pentagon. Inside the plastic prison. Magneto curled up on the ground, trembling constantly. He always thought, everything in that light curtain is fake. Although I don't know what the purpose is. But it must be to deceive him. Just after he saw that corridor, the most frightening memory in his heart. Immediately hooked up. During World War II, I am still a child, and ability has not been awakened yet. Black Emperor alias Klaus Schmidt. In concentration camps. In order to stimulate his potential, he shot his mother directly. And later, the scene he least wanted to recall. They all appeared clearly in his mind. Only then did he understand the contents of these light curtains. I'm afraid they didn't lie to him. After all, even Master Illusion cannot do these things. A moment later, Magneto just came out of this memory, eyes full of angry flames. After this extreme fear, instead, it aroused his anger. Fidge, you must not be locked up here forever. He must do everything possible. Leave here, New York. On the corner of another street. Oh no, Hulk, don't. Feeling another personality that is about to move in my heart. Dr. Banner suddenly felt something was wrong. Obviously last time. It took a lot of effort to make Hulk feel scared and dare not come out again. I have lived a stable life for a long time. Now I can't hold back anymore. What's the matter? Dr. Banner felt bitter. In the picture of the light curtain just now. Watching D-class personnel enter the fear-sensing corridor. Both he and the Hulk were terrified. Visions formed in Hulk's mind. Naturally, it was the battle with Cain. Let Hulk be beaten out of his mind. Under the influence of the corridor's anomalous properties. With the screen of the light curtain. The D-class personnel of the Abnormal Containment Society left the corridor one after another. That fear, and the phantom disappeared in an instant. Then, here comes the problem. I don't know what's going on with Hulk's brain circuit. After that fear dissipated, now I actually want to control my body again. Roar. Finally, with a roar came, Hulk's personality, once again mastered the body. Just when Hulk transforms, not long after the roar. Another location in New York. Military. General Ross. We've spotted the Hulk. A soldier reports. What? Finally found it. Great. General Ross suddenly cheered up. After going through the previous few times. The encounter with the anomalous containment. He now has no hope for the military to control those anomalous containment objects. Those things, without preparation in advance, it is simply not something he can win. His focus, still it's all about Hulk. After all, he is very familiar with Hulk. All kinds of information and weaknesses can be said to be well known. Made for Hulk before, there are many arrest plans. Compared to those anomalous containments that they have never understood, and are very strange. It's a little easier with the Hulk. Recently. They are based on their previous understanding of Hulk. Even made a special Hulk capture tool. That is a weapon that the military has been researching for a long time. It is extremely sophisticated, and it will definitely catch Hulk successfully. But, to General Ross's dismay, since the last Hulk, after being beaten by that abnormal containment 073 Cain. So far, no one has shown up. And with Dr. Banner's IQ. Even in New York City. As long as he wants to stay undiscovered. If the military wants to find it, it is still very difficult. Result now, Hulk's personality actually reappeared. This is a great opportunity. Assemble the task force immediately. General Ross shouted excitedly, ready to contain the Hulk. This contingent, it was also formed after he was inspired by the mobile task force of the Abnormal Containment Society last time. The purpose of this contingent, just to capture and contain the Hulk. As for everything else, don't care. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, all agents, they all recovered from the extreme fear. They each took a deep breath. Then I started my own analysis and recording work directly. Natasha Romanoff looked at Nick Fury, who was full of fear. Can't help being a little curious. Logically speaking, the records of the fear-sensing corridor have disappeared for so long, and the sense of fear should have dissipated long ago. Nick Fury still so scared. What is he afraid of? However, at this moment, in the light curtain, suddenly it flickered. Attention Natasha Romanoff. Immediately, he moved to the top. Next moment, text information emerged on the light curtain. 10 cognitive hazardous containment objects and reality benders inventory. 7th place. See this information. Nick Fury also took a deep breath. Dispel the horrible picture that I just saw in my mind. Then, only then did he stare at the light curtain intently. New information. Immediately it was refreshed. Abnormal containment. Just a girl Gia. Kamar Taj. After seeing this news, Ancient One magician was slightly taken aback. Gia, it is also a god in myths and legends. Is the god of the earth, representing all things from disorder to order. And this time the anomalous containment is this name. That is to say, the abnormal containment items counted this time. Maybe it is related to the god from the extra dimension. Thinking of this, in her mind, emerges involuntarily the he in the Red Sea object, and behind the gate to another world, the Devourer of Worlds, who was imprisoned. Just for a moment, in the eyes of the Ancient One magician, there was a flash of deep sorrow. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., Director Nick Fury, the Green Giant code-named Hulk, from last time has reappeared, and the military has already launched an action against it. An agent reported, "Forget Hulk and the military now," Nick Fury said loudly. "Now, let everyone in the intelligence department focus on collecting information about this abnormal containment." Soon, around the world, for the record of the word, Gia, all presented before Nick Fury's eyes. From the name, it can be inferred that the anomalous containment object this time is a constant character and should be a reality bender. The appearance is preliminarily inferred to be a girl, and investigations have already begun in various places. Nick Fury stared at the light curtain, frowning. Gaia's name, he had definitely heard it too. But what he can't figure out is why, this time the abnormal containment meeting will name the abnormal containment object. Want to add just the word in front of it? Thought for a moment. Still nothing came to his mind. He could only sigh and continue to look at the light curtain. Those who can be contained by abnormalities will be named after gods like Gia. It is enough to explain the abnormal containment this time. How dangerous it must be. And at this time, new information emerged. Object class, Euclid. See this line of message. Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. Euclid class, medium difficulty in containment. This indicates that the anomalous containment this time should not harbor any malice towards humans. Just like Cain, or not good enough. He looked at the light curtain again. Refresh new information. Anomalous containment 166 is a European and American female, who appears to be between 18 and 25 years old. The item has antlers, hooves, and short tails and other ungulate animal characteristics, which are reminiscent of reindeer. Besides these characteristics, the DNA has not found any abnormal genetic characteristics for the time being. Immediately afterwards, one with antlers on his head. The photo of the girl who looked extremely good-looking appeared in the light curtain. Looking at this photo, Nick Fury was taken aback for a moment. And on the internet, the moment the photo appeared, it immediately boiled completely. Oh my god, antlers. This, Furui Kong's ecstasy. Isn't this too pretty? Are you sure this is an anomalous containment? It looks like a cosplayer. So this time the abnormal containment object is actually a staghorn girl. With this good looks, I'm willing to do whatever she asks me to do. The upstairs is full of animal desires. This is an anomalous containment. If you encounter it, every one of them can kill you at will. Inside the Stark Industrial Building. Girl Gia, humanoid anomaly containment again. Stark glanced at the screen. After remembering the image of the photo. Will focus on, transferred to his own armor research. As long as you determine what the anomalous containment looks like. Just don't get caught by yourself for the time being. And at this time, light curtain, the data surfaced again. Within a radius of 15 meters around abnormal containment 166, all man-made objects will gradually return to their unprocessed state. Electronic products, vehicles, or other complex products will be affected more quickly. However, the rate of decay of products made of stone buildings or other basic materials is almost undetectable. Within the same radius, Plants will start to sprout and grow, even in some impossible positions, such as metal originals. Shield. See these materials. Nick Fury's pupils shrank suddenly. Let all man-made objects gradually return to their unprocessed state. Nick Fury's pupils shrank suddenly. Although the sentence is short, but the meaning contained in it is too terrifying to know. Humans have multiplied to the present day. The reason why it can occupy the dominant position is because of tools and technology. Even the Kree Empire, the race that dominates the universe, relies on technology. Those races who are born with great strength, such as mutant, and humans. It was even thought to be the existence of God in the past. With the gradual development of human technology, they will also gradually fall into a disadvantage. It will not always be the opponent of human beings, but the girl Gaia's ability. But it can make the most proud technology useless. Directly restore all man-made objects to their unprocessed state. As for the last abnormal characteristic, it made the plants grow strangely. In front of this abnormal characteristic, it seems insignificant. Kamar Taj. As the abnormal containment item, this time also a special abnormality similar to, not good enough. Ancient One magician whispered. She called something like. It refers to this kind of abnormal characteristic, which is not controlled by the abnormal containment itself at all. Either it needs instructions from others, or it is passively triggered. But, she was still relieved. Fine. From this information. This time the abnormal containment. It has nothing to do with the gods of other dimensions. And, restoring the man-made object to a processed state does not have any major impact on the magician. After all, the source of their power is not relying on technology. But suddenly, Ancient One magician was taken aback again. Wait a minute, those instruments used by the magician seem to be man-made too. I don't know if it will be affected as well. And at this time, a new document appeared on the information of the light curtain. Anomalous Containment 166. Just a girl named Gia, identified as a threat entity by a global occult coalition GOC agent, data deleted Black Goddess, child. GOC related records and documents. Goddess. Notice the word. Ancient One magician's originally relaxed mood lifted up again. Thought. This anomalous Containment 166 girl Gia should be a pure reality bender, and has nothing to do with other gods. Result now, and tell her that Gia is the child of the goddess. This goddess, what is it? The Ancient One magician couldn't help murmuring in a very nervous low voice. Shield. After seeing these data, the whole shield up and down. All the agents suddenly stared wide-eyed. After a brief moment of stupefaction, Nick Fury couldn't help but cursed. This global occult coalition, what the hell is it? Why haven't I heard of it? Intelligence organizations, what do you guys do? But, although he roared, there was a look of fear in his eyes. Anomalous Containment Council and Anomalous Containment Objects, SHIELD is fine if there is no information. Now there is another global occult coalition popping up. SHIELD doesn't have any information either. What the hell kind of organization is this? So much information is ignorant. What have they been doing SHIELD for so long? Took several deep breaths. It was only then that Nick Fury suppressed the emotions in his heart, and looked at the light curtain with great vigilance. Compared with the Global Occult Coalition that I heard for the first time. Anomalous Containment 166 thing. In Nick Fury's mind, the importance level is slightly lower. After all, Girl Gaia's ability is terrifying. But the range is only 15 meters after all, so it won't affect far. But this unknown COG organization, that might be the case. And at this time, light curtain, the GOC file was also opened. Threat ID, data expunged daughter. Authorization corresponding level. Level 4, serious threat. Description. Threat is entity data expunged daughter of Black Goddess, and unknown father. Entity does not have a very beast-like appearance like data expunged Goddess Black. See this information. There was an instant eruption on the internet. Goddess, unknown father. Wait, so the girl Gia has both beast and human characteristics. Her father should be a human. Oh my god, which boss is this awesome? That Black Goddess, it seems to be an anomalous containment in the shape of a beast. How could Ding actually have a baby with her? This is even better than Shu Xian. And at this time, the rest of the information also emerged. The entity has the ability to slightly drive plants. The reason why this level is assigned to the entity is because it has a very high, almost innate execution ability for the supernatural program Clock Black Sun Data Expunged. This is a ceremony that can spread to the whole world. It can irreversibly return human civilization to the new era. See these materials. Inside shield. All the agents froze immediately. Nick Fury also suddenly stopped breathing. Although he does not understand this so-called black sun of the clock, and this super self. But what does the program mean? But based on this last piece of information alone, it was enough to startle him. He was still rejoicing just now. Fortunately, the influence range of the girl Gaia's ability is only about 15 meters. As a result, I told him in the next second, Maiden Gaia passed a certain ritual. It will make the whole human society Li Hao understand. Irreversible return to the Stone Age. It's not that different from the end of the world. And at this moment, information on the light curtain slowly fade away. Soon, a set of pictures emerged in the light curtain. See the contents of the screen. Nick Fury was taken aback immediately. I couldn't help but exclaimed, "Military car. Ross, why is it him again?" Seeing that face, Nick Fury's complexion suddenly became cloudy. In the picture of the light curtain, a girl with antlers on her head, sitting in an armored vehicle. It looks like this should be the transport vehicle for escorting prisoners. But the girl doesn't seem to care much about her situation. Eyes filled with a touch of melancholy. And in the front of the armored vehicle, then came General Ross. There was an extremely excited discussion with several soldiers. The weapon we have studied for so long is finally ready to be used. Can you really catch Hulk? Hulk evolved again last time. God, what are you afraid of? The secret weapon this time is definitely the most sophisticated weapon in the world. Even if Hulk evolves again, he will never escape from us. Capture. Seeing the face of General Ross, it actually appeared on the screen of the light curtain again. Nick Fury was immediately out of breath. Because of General Ross's reckless actions with the anomalous containment, both times almost brought an unstoppable crisis. This time, he actually appeared in the light curtain screen for inventorying the abnormal containment. Even this time the abnormal containment 166 Girl Gaia. It's all in General Ross's armored vehicle. However, here next, after General Ross talked with those soldiers, he was stunned immediately. AF, General Ross I don't know about the abnormal containment inventory this time. Don't know. In his armored car, the abnormal characteristics of this antler girl. Otherwise, it is absolutely impossible for him, with the Maiden Gaia. Then use your most sophisticated weapons to capture Hulk. Just thought of the Maiden Gaia's anomalous traits that degrade all man-made objects. Nick Fury's face, he couldn't help but go from furious to weird. Even, there is also some anticipation mixed in. Have no idea. Hold on, Ross. What will be the expression after discovering the abnormal nature of the Girl Gaia? In the picture of the light curtain. This time, Hulk will definitely not escape my palm. General Ross's eyes were filled with excitement. This weapon in the armored vehicle. It was secretly developed specifically for the Hulk. In order to avoid leakage of weapons and actions. All those involved in the development of weapons. And the contingent formed, even including himself. During the operation, the use of any means of communication is prohibited unless it is absolutely necessary. Then, his gaze, he couldn't help but look at the armored vehicle next to him. To be precise, it was the girl imprisoned in the armored vehicle. I didn't expect that there would be unexpected surprises in this operation. General Ross smiled. This girl with antlers, it was their containment of the Hulk, when it just started. Found outside the military zone. 200 plus the girl's antlers. And the legs are not human legs, but a pair of deer hooves. Clearly, this is no ordinary human being. Immediately, General Ross's eyes lit up. In addition, in order to prevent leakage of whereabouts, they brought the Girl Gaia along with them. For this, Maiden Gaia did not resist. Did not show any abnormalities. When I catch Hulk this time, I can study her genes by the way. General Ross's eyes lit up, and he muttered excitedly, in case I can extract something useful. Then, he asked the driver who was driving, how far is it from the action site? Report to the general, we are still far from the target point. The driver was about to answer, but suddenly he was taken aback. General, The positioning system has failed. What? On such a small matter, you can still have accidents. General Ross immediately cursed angrily. However, General, we should not use the positioning system. The driver looked ahead in horror. Roar. Not far away. Hulk's figure appeared in everyone's sight. Cosmic deep space. Inside the spaceship, looking at the content in the light curtain. Xingju, Rocket Raccoon and others immediately looked at each other in blank dismay. Can all man-made objects degenerate to an unprocessed state? Rocket Raccoon was stunned, and the more complicated the man-made object, the faster it will degenerate. He couldn't help but glance at the spaceship he was driving. This spaceship, definitely more complicated than a car or something. Doesn't that mean, if this girl Gia appears near their spaceship, do nothing, will their spaceship disintegrate soon? And the more advanced the spacecraft, disintegration faster. This kind of weird abnormal ability. They have never heard of it. But, before thinking about it, after seeing the fear-sensing corridor in the light curtain, the illusion that rose in his heart, they had to believe again. The content AIFH in this light curtain is real. It's just that, this is a bit too outrageous, right? And in the back seat, Gamora's sight, but it stayed tightly on the girl Gia. There is always sadness in Gaia's eyebrows. She always feels. This teenage Gia, without mentioning the anomalous effects, looks a lot like her. It seems that, there is some secret hidden. On the screen of the light curtain. Roar. Hulk in the distance. General Ross's army was soon discovered. Hatred. It filled Hulk's eyes in an instant. Immediately without any hesitation. Hulk roared directly. It rushed towards General Ross's armored vehicle. The earth trembled immediately. This guy is indeed much stronger than before. Even if you were prepared. But General Ross couldn't help but twitch his eyelids. But the next moment, after looking at the weapon not far away, this inner fear, it was dispelled in an instant. This time, you can't escape. He took a deep breath. After sneering at Hulk, then he gave an order in high spirits, get ready to contain Hulk. The voice just fell. The doors of several armored vehicles behind them opened suddenly. Hulk froze for a moment, and looked over vigilantly. Nay, pile of metal originals, from inside those armored vehicles. It crashed and fell to the ground. See this scene. The smile on General Ross's face stopped abruptly. Where is my weapon? General Ross couldn't help roaring. Where are the weapons we have prepared for so long? How could they all become components? And when he was stunned, a roar suddenly sounded from the sky. Then you see. In the sky, a helicopter came quickly. At the same time, a terrified voice. From the helicopter, General Ross. Run. That girl with antlers is the anomaly contained in this inventory. In this inventory video of the abnormal containment. See Maiden Gia. It actually appeared behind Ross's armored vehicle. In the military base, the remaining soldiers suddenly felt bad. Decisively began to try to contact General Ross. BD1#. However, they discovered that the means of communication on General Ross's side had actually failed. Even the helicopter was dispatched immediately in an attempt to stop General Ross. But, it's only now that they catch up. What? General Ross froze for a moment. I never thought about those abnormal containment objects. As a result this time, the anomalous containment was so cooperative that it was directly caught by me. And, although do not know, what are the anomalous properties of the abnormal containment items in this inventory. But obviously, the weapons in the armored vehicle look like this, it must have something to do with it. More importantly, that weapon is what I rely on when I dare to contain Hulk this time. Otherwise, nor would he be bold enough to come in person. As a result, the weapon is now useless. He's taking the head to contain the Hulk now. Quick, shoot Hulk, take cover, retreat. General Ross gave the order in horror. However, General, the gun is useless. All other weapons are also useless. The surrounding task force members panicked. General Ross, not good. The armored car won't start either. The driver's more frightened voice sounded. What? Before General Ross could react, those armored vehicles around, all under his gaze, it disintegrated and became a pile of scrap iron. Finally, only the driver was left holding the steering wheel in a daze. General Ross suddenly froze. Is this him? What's going on? But, soon he didn't even have time to stand still. Roar. Hulk's angry growl, from far to near. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Even at first, this scene was expected. But after seeing it with my own eyes, Nick Fury found that I still underestimated the nature of this abnormal characteristic. The thing that man is most proud of. That's the technology. This is true whether it is S.H.I.E.L.D. or the military. Like this General Ross, the reason why he is so confident is because of these technologies. So, it was only before that I dared to pay attention to the contents repeatedly. Even regarding the containment of the Hulk, he is still full of confidence, thinking that the containment will be successful. But the source of all this confidence, Met Girl Gia. It all fell apart immediately. This unusual characteristic, than those other powerful anomalous containment. Even more dangerous, without the support of technology and tools. Not to mention those abnormal containments. Even compared to those beasts, human beings may not be able to compare. This girl, Gia, is simply the nemesis of human civilization. Nick Fury couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat, and said in horror. Just thought of, it is said in the following passage. Through that mysterious ritual, this abnormal characteristic of the girl Gia can also affect the whole world. Even, let the entire human civilization return to the Stone Age. His whole being can't help but shudder for a while. In the picture of the light curtain, when both weapons and vehicles fail, facing a group of human soldiers, Hulk was naturally staring at him. Roar. In an angry roar, General Ross was directly torn in two. As for the other soldiers, you can run as far as you can. Hulk, with the two corpses of General Ross still on the ground, Hulk raised his head to the sky and roared again. Then, the line of sight stayed on the 166 Girl Gia. Stark Industrial Building. Ha ha ha, it finally worked, and now to hell with me. Excited by the success of his armor experiment, Stark, after seeing these contents in the light curtain, immediately bewildered. It was not easy for him to discover. I can use technology to allow myself to gain power far beyond ordinary people. And through unremitting efforts, finally the experiment was successful. The battle armor can finally be used initially. It can even carry him on a flight for a while. Result, turned around and took stock of an anomalous containment capable of returning all artifacts to their raw state. For a while, there were mixed feelings in Stark's heart. Cosmic starry sky, isn't the abnormal ability of this abnormal containment too terrifying? Xingju couldn't help muttering in a low voice. It's a good thing we haven't met before. Rocket Raccoon also nodded in fear. Otherwise, if their spaceship suddenly disintegrates in space, that's what's creepy. In the back seat, Gamora's gaze is still fixed on the girl Gia. Facing the might of the Hulk, made Gaia's face. Still can't see the slightest bit of fear. Still maintained the melancholy before. This made Gamora even more curious. This girl Gia. What have you been through? In the picture of the light curtain. Roar. Hulk roared at the girl Gia. Just when it wants to make a move. A team of anomalous containment agents, under the leadership of Cain, they quickly surrounded the surrounding area. See Cain. Hulk's pupils shrank instantly. Then, roar, as if to cheer yourself up. Hulk roared and slammed at Cain. Next moment, Hulk's figure flew out heavily. After standing up again quickly, fear appeared in Hulk's eyes again. Then, turn around and run. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., looking at the picture of the light curtain, Hulk who turned and ran. All the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were stunned. Did not expect, in their profile, the Hulk who fears nothing but anger. When facing Cain, just try, and was defeated once. I just ran away. But, thinking of Cain's simply inexplicable anomalous properties, Hulk was beaten last time. Have this reaction. Seems normal too. Nick Fury looks at the light curtain. The color of fear in the eyes. It has not been sold out for a long time. Those armored vehicles quickly disintegrated and decomposed into the most basic materials. Let his mind, I can't help but think back to the information I saw before. Girl Gia went through the ceremony, causing the entire human civilization to irreversibly return to the Neolithic age. Nick Fury thought silently in his heart. At first, he felt that this might be a bit exaggerated. But with the abnormal qualities of the Maiden Gia, judging from the actual performance just now, it seems like it's not impossible, and the more advanced the technology, the faster it degrades. Think here. Nick Fury couldn't help feeling his scalp tingle. Stark Industrial Building. This time's abnormal containment. This ability is really. Stark shook his head with a bitter face. But instead, his sight, it stopped again on another data of the light curtain. The animal features on the young girl Gia obviously come from her mother, the so-called goddess, so the human features should come from. There was a gleam in Stark's eyes. From here, basically, it can be deduced that the abnormal contained items in this inventory, the unknown father, in the data, should be a human being. Thinking of this, a feeling of admiration suddenly arose spontaneously in Stark's heart. At the same time, curious color, it also appeared on his face. And at this time, in the picture of the light curtain, a new profile has emerged. Attachment. Letter from Doctor. Data expunged. Letter. Stark froze for a moment. See this profile. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. The attention of all agents in the intelligence department came to this in an instant. This doctor should be the doctor in the Abnormal Containment Society. Why did you write to Anomalous Containment -166? What is their relationship? Nick Fury's brain suddenly turned wildly. And at this time, inside the light curtain, the attachment was opened. When I met your mother, we were both young children. She has hooves on her feet, but stars are shining in her eyes. She is so beautiful, so innocent. Inside the Stark Industrial Building. See these words. Stark's breath faltered. A look of disbelief suddenly appeared in his eyes. Real hammer. This is definitely a letter from the girl Gaia's father, to her. The father of this anomalous containment 166. It's actually a doctor from the Abnormal Containment Society. Having a relationship with another powerful anomalous containment, which gave birth to the girl Gia. And, judging from the first sentence of this letter, this doctor seems to be a master of love. There are stars shining in her eyes, so beautiful. Tisk tisk tisk. For a while, the raging fire of gossip suddenly appeared in Stark's eyes. Did not expect. The doctor in the Abnormal Containment Society actually has such a side. However, when seeing the next sentence, Stark's pupils shrank suddenly. However, I killed her with my own hands. As soon as this sentence came out, everyone was stunned. From the above two descriptions, this doctor was at the beginning of his love affair. This sentence is not impossible to write in love. As a result, the next sentence. Just say that you killed your lover with your own hands. What? Am I reading that right? Why is this? So, this doctor is a heartbreaker. Is there a possibility that this goddess is a very dangerous anomalous containment object whose anomalous properties cannot be controlled by me? So the doctor, as a member of the Anomaly Containment Society, has no choice but to kill her. What you said makes sense. I think it's probably the case. After all, the girl Gaia's abnormal characteristics are so dangerous, and her mother will only be more dangerous. Anyway, the girl Gaia's life experience is too tragic, right? Online, all of a sudden it boiled endlessly. And at this moment, the next paragraph of the letter also appeared on the light curtain. Eden is not a place, it is a state of existence. They want us to go back to that, I stopped them. Once again I have taken heaven from us. See these three sentences. The originally boiling network, there was a sudden silence. Everyone is dumbfounded. What do these words mean? S.H.I.E.L.D., Garden of Eden. Nick Fury frowned. Garden of Eden, Cain, Adam, they all belong to the same myth and legend. Does this mean that this doctor, with Anomaly Containment 073 Cain, and the Anomaly Containment 343 of the self-proclaimed God, is there a connection between them? Thinking of getting involved with these two extremely dangerous abnormal containment objects again, Nick Fury couldn't help but have a headache. Kamar Taj. A group of magic apprentices. They all looked at each other. Pupils of the Ancient One magician. But suddenly shrunk. They want us to go back to that and I stop them. She stared at the screen, repeating this sentence in a low voice. In mind, a dire guess was formed. Do they mean invaders from other dimensions? Then, the mysterious doctor, or anomaly containment. These intruders were stopped. Thinking of the record in the previous Red Sea object, she felt it was very possible. Eden, is this the name of the invader from this dimension? In her mind, quickly guessed. Then, she focused her attention on the last sentence. Once again, I have taken heaven from us. This sentence is also very easy to explain. Invaders of many dimensions, it often adopts the method of tempting the life of this dimension. For example, Caecilius bewitched by Dormamu, and those servants of darkness. This so-called paradise, it should refer to the temptation released by intruders from other dimensions. What really shocked Ancient One was, again, have they repelled invaders from other dimensions more than once? The Ancient One magician looked at the light curtain in shock. But, to that mysterious anomalous containment society, this might just be a statement of fact. And, for these great feats, the doctor who wrote this letter didn't seem to care much, just passing it by. Instead, it's more about the guilt of the recipient. At this moment, light curtain, the letter surfaced again. I have never regretted what I did that day, except for one thing. When you first met me that day, you saw your father shoot a bullet into your mother's head. I have no excuses, no explanations. You may not even remember, but I'm telling you about it now, and I hope you understand what I've done. I hope you forgive me. Cosmic Deep Space. See this paragraph of text. Gamora was shocked all of a sudden. She finally understood. Why is that girl with antlers before the eyes? He always had that extremely melancholy look on his face. Seeing his father with his own eyes. Kill your own. Judging from the contents of this letter, her father, the mysterious doctor, had a reason for doing this. But girl Gia doesn't know. She only knows, own father. In front of his own face, he killed his mother chosen. How desperate is this for a young girl? Gamora's mind. Involuntarily, then the memory of when he was taken away by Thanos emerged. In the eyes, the flames of hatred intensified. Soon, the letters are at the very bottom. I love you. I wish I could have done more for you. Opening square bracket, comma, closing square bracket. Love your father. See here, countless people fell silent for a moment. Former members of the Abnormal Containment Society. In all hearts, they are all heroes who can sacrifice everything to protect mankind. As if this is the symbol of the Abnormal Containment Society. But, in this letter, an old father, full of guilt for my daughter. The image of wanting to beg for forgiveness instantly appeared on the paper. But he didn't care about such a great thing he did. Everyone just remembered, members of the Abnormal Containment Society are not gods either. Also like them, a real human being with feelings. One can imagine how painful the doctor was when he made that decision. Kamar Taj. After reading the entire letter, the Ancient One magician was slightly dazed. Becoming the supreme law, before division, she has long since stripped herself of all emotion. In order to protect the Earth dimension from being invaded by other dimensions. She can also pay any price. What if you didn't get rid of your feelings? Can you do what this doctor has done? Thinking of this, she couldn't help being slightly taken aback. Inside Site 17 base. Abnormal Containment 166. It's just a girl Gia successfully contained. You got the spread value plus 200 billion. You have obtained the characteristics of technology reversal, weak plant control. Congratulations. You have obtained an additional reward, Scranton Reality Anchor. Hearing the voice from the system in my head, Lin Yan was slightly taken aback. The system's rewards this time are so generous. Scranton Reality Anchor. This can be said to be the most famous technology in the history of the Abnormal Containment Society. This is a specialized technology developed by the Anomalous Containment 2000 Mechanics Seance project. Its function, it is a stable reality, able to resist the reality distortion phenomenon brought about by reality benders. It can be said that it is a weapon specially made to deal with reality benders. And, if the theory is correct, magic, as well as mutants' different abilities, it also falls into this category. SHIELD. At the moment the atmosphere is slightly depressing. After all, the agents of SHIELD are just ordinary people. The situation described in that letter, they are more or less, have been worried. Even Nick Fury is no exception. Natasha Romanoff couldn't help shrugging, not quite understanding the emotion. She was sent to the Red Room since she was a child. Whether it is mental or physical, they have received extremely strict training. In order to complete the task, she can give up anything. And at this moment, in the light curtain, a new text suddenly appeared. Top 10 Cognitive Hazardous Abnormal Containments and Reality Benders Inventory. 6th place. See here. Nick Fury and all the agents immediately sighed and came back to their senses. His eyes couldn't help looking at the light curtain again. Information on the light curtain soon surfaced. Abnormal containment 738. Make a deal with the devil. Abnormal things. Exchange with the devil. Item class. Ket. Inside shield. See this information. Nick Fury frowned suddenly. Ket grade. The anomalous containment items that were counted this time are actually the most difficult to contain anomalous objects at the level. And it's the Ket class anomalous thing in the inventory of cognitohazards and reality benders. Those EU level anomalous things before. The danger is already that great. Who knows the Ket level threat now? How big will it be? Thinking of this, all the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. couldn't help but look ugly. Change with Momo. Nick Fury stared at the light curtain, groaning in a low voice. His brain started thinking crazily. Making money with the devil. What is the abnormal thing this time? Staring at the content in the light curtain, Nick Fury couldn't help murmuring. Kamar Taj. Magic. Do you mean demons? See the name. The Ancient One magician was taken aback for a moment. Demon name. Of course she had heard of it, and even seen it. This is a creature from the dimension of hell. Could it be that the abnormal containment items that were counted this time? Is it related to other dimensions? She took a deep breath. His eyes continued to scrutinize the light curtain. A certain Yi, meaning, the contained object this time is planning a 900 transaction with the devil. A guess flashed through my mind. Ancient One magician's pupils shrank suddenly. This inference reminds her of Mephisto, king of the hell dimension. The most common thing this demon king does is to tempt people to trade with them. Such as Ghost Rider, that Mephisto seduces, the most famous product. The abnormal thing this time is actually this name. Could it be also related to it? Thinking of this, Ancient One couldn't help but startled all of a sudden. Mephisto, that is the equivalent of the Dark Lord Dormamu. And at this time, light curtain, new information emerged. Abnormal things, Yi Mo Yi, there are 3 parts in total. 1. A set of mahogany furniture, including a table. 2. A high-backed chair with brass trim and royal purple velvet upholstery on the back. 3. A gorgeous office chair, known as the throne. Inside the Stark Industrial Building. Looking at the information on the light curtain, Stark's breath faltered. A table and 2 chairs. Then, his expression instantly became terrified. Looking towards his office, as described in this document. Isn't that TM's standard configuration in the office? But it's okay. The desks and chairs in my office. Nothing is identical to what is described in this source. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. Although he does not understand. What are the abnormal properties of the abnormal containment this time? But just relying on this Ket level line. If I really meet. The end is probably worse than death. Wait a minute. Sudden. Stark was taken aback for a moment. The abnormal things in this inventory. How do they look like a tool for negotiating a deal? Thinking of this, he couldn't help looking at the light curtain again. His complexion suddenly became weird. And at this time, in the screen of the light curtain, new information soon emerged. When a sentient individual sits on a high-backed chair, the throne moves as if a person, relaxed, was lying on it. And will be close to, or away from the high-backed chair. Occasionally the throne will move in front of the high-backed chair. Immediately, the paper and folder containing the paper will leave the desk drawer. The type of paper is parchment. A quill and a bottle of ink will appear in the long drawer, and the pen will write on parchment. Xavier Ability Academy. Seeing the information on the light curtain. Professor X and Wolverine. Immediately, they couldn't help but looked at each other, looking at each other in blank dismay. These descriptions of the anomalies in this inventory. Why does it look more and more like with an unknown being? Ready to sign a contract. They continued to look at the light curtain. New information will be updated soon. When sitting in a high-backed chair, the individual will hear a distorted sound. The voice will make conditions, make promises and try to seduce the person sitting in the high-backed chair. If the person sitting on the high-backed chair makes a request at this time, the voice of temptation and promise will stop, and after a short silence, the price will be offered. It is possible to bargain with it, but this voice will insist on other, equivalent, prices. Kamar Taj. The moment these data appear, the Ancient One magician was shocked all of a sudden. Her expression, it couldn't help but be extremely serious. Confirmed, the abnormal things in this inventory. Something like Mephisto, Lord of Hell, as Sorcerer Supreme. She is naturally extremely concerned about these things. I just don't know whether the abnormal thing this time is a cognitohazard or a reality bender. If it is a cognitohazard, then most likely it only affects the subject alone. Relatively speaking, the danger is not that great. But if this is a reality bender with mommy, really can do anything requested, that would be troublesome. In the thing of the Red Sea, the sealed Devourer of Worlds and the Gate of Otherworlds, and now there is another one who makes deals with the devil. The thought of these extra dimensions exists. Ancient One magician couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. Although do not know what can be achieved with Momoyi, but those that can appear in this abnormal containment inventory. Nothing is easy. What shocked her even more was that so many anomalous things that are too powerful to comprehend. Unusual office. To know them so well. How the hell did they do it? A moment later, she took a deep breath. Continued to look at the newly emerged data in the light curtain. After accepting the transaction, the previously negotiated wishes or orders will be fulfilled in writing, but not in writing. Afterwards, the things mentioned in the price will be paid. In many experiments, any transaction proposed by the subject, the project said, as long as the price is paid, it can be done. Asgard. See these materials. Thor, who had just emerged from Loki's grief. Immediately, I couldn't help my heart skip a beat. The lizard that killed Loki. The psychological shadow left in his heart was too great. As long as you pay the price, any request can be fulfilled. Thor shuddered. If I get this thing, trade to kill that big lizard, and avenge Loki, I don't know if it will be possible. In his mind, this kind of thinking intensifies. Even can't wait. Go yourself now, to Midgard. Get that desk and chair set and avenge Loki. Thor, however at this moment, Odin's roar suddenly sounded. Just pulled Thor out of that kind of thinking. What happened to me just now? Could it be that I was affected by this thing? Thor froze for a moment. Then, he saw, Odin was staring at the data in the light curtain. Face, seems to reveal hesitation and expectation. In Thor's eyes, immediately revealed disbelief. Stark Industrial Building. Doesn't this mean that if you get this abnormal thing, as long as you are willing to pay the price, you can realize all your wishes? Stark's eyes lit up immediately. But the next moment, in his mind, can't help but reappear the thing of, not good enough. Immediately, he quickly overturned the idea that came into his mind. From the data alone, I know the abnormal things that have been counted this time, traveling with the devil. Definitely far more dangerous than, not good enough, Zhao Zena. If you really want to relate to it, I'm afraid the consequences will be much more serious than before. He took a deep breath. Continued to look at the remaining information in the light curtain. Finally, the person sitting in the chair reported seeing an entity on the throne. However, all attempts to observe it without sitting in a chair have failed. Every test, for the entity on the throne, the further description is different, even if it is a different test of the same person. Descriptions of this entity often include attractive or charming. Inside shield. See those materials. Nick Fury's face turned pale with fright. You can only sit in a chair and observe this abnormal thing. How could it be so dangerous? He couldn't help but tremble a little. The abnormal things in this inventory, and the magic trick. It is simply an enhanced version of not good enough. As long as the person who gets this abnormal thing wishes made, or deal, it is really achievable. There's just a price to pay. It's absolutely, is so far, of all the contained items in the inventory, the most dangerous one. In case someone is ambitious, people like General Ross got this anomalous thing, talk to magic tricks. Thinking of this possibility, a look of horror appeared on Nick Fury's face. And at this time, light curtain, a photo of a set of tables and chairs emerged. Kamar Taj. Even though, not Mephisto, but something like that. Ancient One magician stared at the picture of the luxurious table and chairs, muttering to himself. Sudden, in her mind, a bold idea emerged. If I make a deal with it, let this make a deal with the devil, protect the Earth's dimension, and prevent it from being invaded by other dimensions. Will it be successful? But, as soon as this idea came out, she herself felt weird. Let something from another dimension guard the Earth. How is this different from directly letting the Earth dimension be invaded by Dormamu? And, even if it is possible, but that price. She definitely can't afford it either. She shook her head. Suddenly he thought again, wait a minute. It's impossible to protect the Earth's dimension, so, what if we trade with it and defeat Dormamu? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but her heart skipped a beat. And at this moment, wait, why do I have such thoughts? She suddenly came to her senses. There was a hint of panic in the eyes looking at the light curtain. Xavier Ability Academy, Professor X and Wolverine. They all stared blankly at the photo of the luxurious tables and chairs in the light curtain. In mind, there was an extremely strong impulse. Can't wait to get that table and chair set now. And then trade with. Fulfill their wishes. Any price is acceptable. Until, the picture slowly faded away. The impulse in their minds gradually dissipated. Then, the two couldn't help but look at each other with shock in their pupils. They just, unknowingly, it was affected again. And at this moment, in the light curtain, a set of pictures emerged again. Seeing the figure in the picture, Professor X and Wolverine, who were already in shock, immediately couldn't help it, at the same time exclaimed, Eric Magneto. In the picture of the light curtain, it was a prison that was completely isolated. Throughout the prison, not an iota of metallic substance exists. It's a metal-free prison under the Pentagon. And now, in the very center of this metal-free prison, Magneto is lying on a bed of clear acrylic panels, seemingly sleeping. Xavier Ability Academy. After seeing this scene, Professor X's pupils shrank suddenly, and he said in horror, no, how could it be him? According to the previous video of inventorying abnormal containment items, basically, it can be concluded now that, next, I encountered an abnormal containment. Mostly Magneto. A look of incomparable horror suddenly appeared on Professor X's face. He didn't even think of killing him. How could this happen? For his best friend, that was all too familiar. Because of childhood experiences, causing Magneto's unusual hatred of humans. Although the two are close friends, but because of the different ideas, they are strangers, and even become sworn enemies many times. The idea of Magneto, it is to let mutant rule the Earth, above all human beings. If Magneto can be given a chance to trade with Momo, Professor X is sure, no matter the cost, Magneto will absolutely agree. Logan, quick, get in the control room now, Professor X said in a deep voice. Stark Industrial Building. This prison was built just for him. And, why was it built like this? Who is this person? Seeing this metal-free prison, Stark was taken aback. This made him aware of the identity of the figure in the prison. Very curious, could it be, this person also has some kind of abnormal ability? That's why he was imprisoned here. Stark guessed in his mind. And, from this prison, the strength of the figure inside this light curtain must not be underestimated. Then, he couldn't help but glanced at his 08 Mark armor and let out a long sigh of relief. But it's okay, although I don't have those abnormal abilities. But the most powerful means of oneself is one's own brain. Through technology, I will definitely not be weaker than these people with abnormal abilities. Moreover, technology is changing with each passing day and can continue to evolve. I can also create corresponding restraints based on the weaknesses of these people with abnormal abilities. Thinking of this, Stark was instantly excited. Just like the Hulk, he already has a method in mind at this moment. Get one with huge amounts of warframe than the Hulk. No matter how strong you are, you still have a carbon-based body after all. Is it possible that it can be compared with the hardest alloy made? The more I think about it, Stark's heart grew more and more excited. Definitely, the former abnormal containment, the abnormal ability of the girl Gia is excluded. The ability to degenerate all man-made things. It is simply the nemesis of all technology. Shook his head, Stark's sight gathered on the light curtain again. On the screen of the light curtain, Magneto lay on his metaless prison bed, counting the time in his mind. According to their previous plan, soon, Mystique and the others are about to take action to rescue themselves. The plan is also very simple. It was Mystique who seduced the guards in this prison. Then look for opportunities. Inject metal elements into its body. In this case, he can use the control of these metal elements to escape from this metal-free prison. There are also those abnormal containment items I can use this time to leave the prison. He silently planned in his heart. Shield. After seeing the figure of Magneto, Nick Fury's face suddenly turned pale. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., naturally, the information on Mutant is also very detailed. Especially Magneto, mutant at the level of Professor X. Information in S.H.I.E.L.D., it is even more detailed as much as you want. Magneto's powerful ability to control metal is simply amazing. This is if he encounters the abnormal contained items in this inventory again, and makes a deal with the devil. Who the hell knows what will happen? With that guy's ambition. Maybe they will really trade and rule the world. Or kill everyone but the mutant. No, this must be stopped. Nick Fury made a quick decision. Immediately shouted. All agents who can still fight are ready, equip non-metallic weapons, and go to the Pentagon immediately. After a pause, he continued. By the way, where is Captain Rogers? Let him go too. Soon. A team of agents. It is ready. On the way. The sight of Nick Fury. Still stubbornly staying on the light curtain. His brow furrowed. The picture on the light curtain has appeared for so long. Still just Magneto. Image of lying in a metal-free prison. Nothing else. Not to mention tables and chairs. Did something go wrong this time? He whispered to himself. However, the next moment, his pupils shrank suddenly. In the picture of the light curtain, several prison guards, carrying a set of tables and chairs, into that metal-free prison. This table and chairs, it looks extremely luxurious. Exactly the same as the picture that just appeared in the video. S.H.I.E.L.D., anomalous contained items that were counted this time. Traded with the devil. After seeing this scene, Nick Fury couldn't help roaring. Where did this group of people come from? Are they crazy? He couldn't even think of killing him. The abnormal containment items counted this time. How did you get into this prison in such a way? Those guards are assholes. Quick, faster, Nick Fury suddenly roared, on the screen of the light curtain. Seeing these guards, he came in with a set of tables and chairs. The guard who was in charge of guarding was suddenly stunned. Quickly and vigilantly asked, "What are you doing? This is not in compliance." But the words were not finished yet. He was directly stunned by another guard. Then, the guards were immediately operating outside the metal-free prison. A passage leading into the prison opened slowly. The center of the prison. Seeing this scene, Magneto frowned suddenly. What is this doing? How about acting for yourself here? Did Mystique and their plan fail? They are trying to trick themselves out, and then implement what plan? In Magneto's mind, I thought a lot in an instant. I thought, his brows became even tighter. I really can't figure it out. Who is doing it, and what's the point? And when he was dazed. The guards, the table and chairs have been moved to the prison. At this moment, Magneto only found out. There doesn't seem to be any emotion in the eyes of these guards. It's like an emotionless machine. Magneto's brow furrowed even tighter. He couldn't help but look at the open prison door. With his ability, now get out of this prison. It was a breeze. That's a lot of metal in this desk and chair set alone. But the next moment, Magneto was taken aback for a moment. He found, I can't control these metals myself. Do not know why. The moment I saw this set of tables and chairs. He always has a share. The urge to sit on it. Just like. There is a very seductive voice telling me in the dark. Just sit on it by yourself. Then whatever you want, you can get it. Then, he unconsciously moved closer to the table and chairs. Xavier Ability Academy. Professor X with a brainwave amplifier on his head. After seeing this scene, his expression instantly became extremely ugly. With brainwave amplifiers, he should be able to perceive. And with some degree of control. Or even kill all mutants in the world. Magneto wouldn't be able to stop him if he wasn't wearing the helmet that blocked the mental detection. However now, he has no way of perceiving Magneto's spirit. This is definitely the anomalous containment, and Mui did it. Professor X's voice trembled a little. Logan, no. We have to stop Eric. Let Cyclops go with them. Quick, make sure to hurry up and go. S.H.I.E.L.D. Seeing the distance between Magneto and that chair getting closer and closer. Nick Fury's expression also became more and more ugly. And at this moment, in the picture of the light curtain, Magneto finally couldn't resist the temptation. Sit directly on the chair. Next moment, he heard a seductive voice came out. Eric, or should I call you by your real name, Eisenhart? Hear this sentence. Magneto was shocked. Eisenhart is his real name, Eric is just a pseudonym. At this point, nobody knows except Professor X. He raised his head, but suddenly found out in horror. On the chair opposite me, suddenly a woman appeared. That figure is impressively Mother. Magneto couldn't help but tremble all over. The image of the woman. In my childhood memories, the mother who was killed by the Black Emperor was exactly the same. Stark Industrial University. Shaman. Stark watched the scene in amazement. In his eyes, that's when Magneto sat down. The throne on the opposite side suddenly leaned back. Immediately after, Magneto called out to his mother. He suddenly thought of the previous information about Momui. Everyone sees the image differently. The brain is running fast. Could it be that the image sitting opposite the chair is the person I most want to see or be closest to? Thinking of this, Stark's breath stopped suddenly. Deep in his heart, certain memories were instantly recalled. Sit on this chair, even if you don't make any transactions. Can see him too. Thinking of this, Stark looked at the chair. It couldn't help but become extremely hot. And at this moment, in the picture of the light curtain, after a brief daze, Magneto recovered quickly, looking at the woman opposite. Took a deep breath. After calming down, he asked, "These guards, are you doing it?" Honestly, it's too easy to satisfy their demands, it's nothing more than power and money. The voice on the other side rang out. The woman looked at Magneto, smiled and said, "But Eric, I think it will be an interesting deal with you." Looking at the smile that is only in the deepest part of memory, Magneto's whole body couldn't help shaking again, and his spirit became in a trance. He couldn't help taking a few deep breaths again. Only then did he calm down again. And at this time, the woman opposite simply left the chair. Walking to Magneto's side, he said, "Make your wish, as long as you trade with me, I can help you fulfill all your wishes." Can all wishes come true? Magneto was shocked, and looked at the figure in front of him in disbelief. Who the hell are you? He already had guesses in his mind. This thing, I am afraid it is the same as what I saw on the light curtain before. Anomaly containment or something. It doesn't matter who I am. The woman's voice sounded again. The important thing is your wish. The next moment, in that voice, endless temptation suddenly appeared. Say it, as long as you say it, I can satisfy you. Magneto stared blankly at the woman. Next moment, he spoke slowly, his voice full of mockery. Anything can be satisfied. I want mutant to rule the world, can you do it? I knew it. The fool would have asked for that. Nick Fury's face turned pale immediately, and he couldn't help cursing in horror. In his mind, there were still a few flukes left. The anomalous containment this time, shouldn't it be really outrageous? This kind of wish, even a reality bender, should be impossible to achieve. He muttered to himself as if cheering for himself. Nick Fury's eyes were fixed on the light curtain. He couldn't see the figure sitting opposite Magneto. But the voice can be heard. Making mutants rule the world. The voice full of temptation sounded again. I definitely can do it, but to be honest, you can't afford the price. Hear this sentence. Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. However, he hadn't had time to relax all over. Then the voice sounded again. However, you can trade power with me. The power to be able to do that. Hear this sentence. Nick Fury's face froze suddenly. What is the difference between that and trading directly with Magneto and letting mutant rule the world? After hearing that seductive voice, Nick Fury couldn't help but curse immediately. His hands trembled unconsciously, just by this sentence. It represents the anomalous containment item Yi Mo Yi. It really is possible to do this. This is the end. What kind of monster is it? Quick, faster, be sure to get there as soon as possible. He roared, and in another car. As long as you are willing to pay the price, can you really do anything? Captain America stared at the light curtain and couldn't help murmuring. He thought of the picture he saw when he appeared in the fear-sensing corridor. If only we could go back in time. Just be with Peggy all the time, just fine. But the next moment, he shook his head abruptly. throwing out the thought in his heart. Kamar Taj, how can this be? On the face of the Ancient One. In an instant, he was full of shock. Listen to the meaning of this voice. As long as Magneto can afford the price, can really fulfill Magneto's request. Let mutant rule the world. Mephisto, the king of the Hell dimension, can't do this. It must be deception. The deception that demons are best at. Ancient One speculated, but the next moment, in her mind, the previous anomalous containment could not help but emerge, not good enough. That seemingly harmless little girl. When reality conflicts with its abnormal characteristics, it turns out that reality is very proof. So, maybe it's really possible to do this with Momui. Thinking of this, Ancient One couldn't help but feel his scalp tingling all of a sudden. He quickly looked at the light curtain in horror. Now, in the picture of the light curtain. Original. When he heard the other party say that he couldn't afford to let mutant rule the world. He also showed a sneer, and was about to mock the other party for talking big. If he can really do it, he is willing to pay any price. As a result, the next sentence. The other party gave him a sentence. Can the power to do it all be traded? Magneto's expression couldn't help becoming serious. His eyes narrowed. He carefully looked at the woman across from him. A moment later, he asked seriously, "So, you can really do it?" "Definitely, Eric." The woman's seductive voice sounded again. "I will promise you the power to do all of this, as long as you are willing to pay the price." Magneto's breath caught. He took several deep breaths. Only then slowly said, "What price?" "Hear this." The woman on the opposite side suddenly smiled. "It's a good price. Quicksilver, Mystique's life. Also, your memory of your parents." "Hear this." The expression on Magneto's face froze suddenly. Immediately afterwards, he shook his head resolutely and said, "Impossible." Xavier Ability Academy. Hear Magneto refuse. Wolverine immediately breathed a sigh of relief. There was a smile on the corner of his mouth. Magneto didn't agree to her request. This time it's a safe bet. Professor X shook his head solemnly. Mystique. It was Magneto who followed Magneto's mutant when he formed the Mutant Brotherhood. Arguably Magneto's most loyal subordinate. And Quicksilver. He is the son of Magneto. No matter which, they are the ones with the deepest and most inseparable feelings in Magneto's heart. B. Professor X looks at the screen. With an extremely ugly face, he said, "If you don't know him well, he will definitely agree to the deal. But compared with Magneto's ideal, all can be discarded." Wolverine's smile froze for a moment. Inside the metal-free prison under the Pentagon. After Magneto decisively refused, on the throne, where the devil made a deal. The smile on the woman's face didn't diminish at all, and she said with a smile, "Don't rush to refuse, you have a minute to think about it. The goal you have been striving for all this time can now be achieved with just a little nod. You should also know that if Mystique is here, she will make you happy. Eric, think about it." Hearing these words, Magneto's face suddenly showed due color. He knows very well, Mystique is absolutely willing to give her life for him. After thinking for a moment, he still shook his head and refused. Stand up directly, ready to leave. Seeing this scene, Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. Anyway, Magneto didn't agree to the deal, and that's for the best. But before he could be happy, I saw Magneto, who had already left, come back again. Without saying a word, he sat down on the chair again. Nick Fury's pupils shrank suddenly. Then, immediately roared, "This idiot! Hurry up! The Pentagon has arrived, start to act. What time is it now, and you still ask me for documents? Hurry up!" While Nick Fury was arguing with the Pentagon staff, Captain America got off the other car straight away. Holding the vibranium shield in hand, "Go quickly to the bottom of the Pentagon." Kamar Taj. This Ancient One's hands couldn't help shaking. This anomalous containment traveled with the devil. The control of the human heart guides the ability. It's just too powerful, just like Magneto's every move. Any reaction made is under the control of the other party. It made her think involuntarily. The previous inventory. Possessing others' body with Mordo's comedy mask. Bottom of the Pentagon. You really made a smart choice. The moment Magneto sat down again, he saw the woman on the opposite throne reappear. Next moment, in front of him, A roll of parchment filled with the contents of the contract appeared on the table. Beside, and a quill. Magneto picked up the roll of parchment and looked at it. He has been hesitation for a long time. Then he took a deep breath and made a decision. Parchment. Soon his name appeared. The deal is done. With this seductive voice sounding, Magneto felt instantly. He seemed to have forgotten something. But soon he shook his head. A look of extreme surprise appeared on his face. Because at this very moment, he felt, my own ability, as expected. It has been strengthened to an unimaginable level. He can even see clearly the surge of magnetic force around here. With his thoughts, those magnetic forces are also moving with the constant changes. As long as he AIBC wants, he can freely let the magnetic force, one of the 4 basic forces of the universe, change his movement mode. It's something he's never felt before. With such strength. In front of him, all human weapons seem to be completely inadequate. Really, the strength to do everything. Magneto's voice became a little excited. He couldn't help looking at the set of tables and chairs in front of him. The current self is strong enough. However, the next moment, he couldn't help shivering. He had a hunch. If I really try to destroy this set of tables and chairs, I will definitely die here. Then, he directly thought. Everyone flew up. Immediately following the next moment, the metal-free prison built just for him under his feet. As if being ravaged by a pair of big hands, start to squeeze inward constantly. That picture, it's like a god who is held by the stars. #Oh my god. Is this outrageous? Is he really gaining this much power? God, this is even more outrageous than the magic that Sorcerer Supreme showed last time. He can really rule the world, right? Also, what the hell is a mutant? Isn't this too outrageous? Almost everyone who saw this scene, the prison, which was all twisted together by this instant, was beyond shock. However, at this moment, something even more unexpected to everyone happened. Not just that metal-free prison. The whole Pentagon. They all began to shake violently, and then gradually disintegrated into countless tiny rubble. The entire Pentagon, being dismantled at an astonishing speed. Outside the Pentagon, Director Nick Fury, an agent, held the instrument and said in horror, the surrounding magnetic field has become chaotic. I see it. Nick Fury looked into the air, muttering in horror. Only in midair, the countless rubble and metal fragments formed several huge amounts of magnetic wires. And Magneto, it is slowly lifted into the air, floating in the middle of these magnetic lines. Seeing this scene, countless people were immediately dumbfounded. Stark Industrial Building. Hell, this can change the magnetism, right? Stark looked bewildered. What is this weird ability? Even the magnetic force, one of the 4 fundamental forces of the universe, can be changed. He was still thinking. Observe what this person's ability is, and can create a special armor for it. As a result, you can directly change the magnetic force. This is still a joke. Xavier Ability Academy. Eric. Professor X's voice was full of despair. The current strength of Magneto. Much stronger than before. Simply difficult to imagine. The anomalous containment traded with the devil. Can it really make Magneto so powerful? It's just outrageous. The exterior of the gradually disintegrated Pentagon. Captain America, who is about to go, but suddenly found own vibranium shield. Unable to control it, it flew into the sky. He looked up to the sky in horror and shock. In the sky, feeling an unprecedented sense of control over yourself. Magneto couldn't help laughing out loud. He's never felt this way before. This is far stronger than when I was at my peak, not even several times stronger. Everything around, as if it was all in his perception. That feeling of being directed by the arm. It's so cool. Under the ruins of the Pentagon, all the agents who came here were dumbfounded. Those non-metallic weapons prepared in advance, facing Magneto at this moment. It has no effect at all. Nick Fury couldn't help but curse. His face, full of despair. This Magneto, the current supernatural ability, is actually so terrifying. Relying on this strength, it seems that it is really not difficult to let mutant rule the world. No one at all can withstand this power, even with all kinds of nuclear weapons. I'm afraid I won't be able to enter Magneto's body at all, and will be directly controlled by him. This ability, it's so powerful it's depressing. What the hell is going on with this? She doesn't know how to deal with others, wait. Nick Fury couldn't help feeling desperate. But the next moment, he was taken aback suddenly. His eyes couldn't help looking at the ruins of the Pentagon. The set of luxurious tables and chairs that remained unchanged. In his heart, I couldn't help but have a crazy idea. If I also go to make a deal with Momo Yi, I don't know if I can. However, at this moment, a violent roar suddenly sounded. Then you see, those gunships with the familiar logo. From far to near. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.